Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with what's published, just say something about it and don't be a Richard.
Good morning, good afternoon, and or good evening, depending on when you're listening to the show. My name is Josh, host of the What Makes Us Fire podcast, founder of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation. Thank you so much for jumping in on today's episode. For you today, we have a very awesome, down-to-earth, dirty, nitty-gritty guest. Her name's Melissa Parker, author of Living Through the Darkness, a firefighter paramedic story of living through life struggles while still being on the job. Now, I want to warn you, Melissa doesn't hold anything back. She is eloquent with her words when she wants to be, but usually, and thank God for it, she just doesn't give a shit. She's going to tell you how it is. You're going to hear her process. You're going to hear her tell her story, and you're going to get lost in it. I did. There was a couple times where I had to pull her back a little bit just so we can keep going with what was going on with the episode. I got to thank her for coming on and just being so nonchalant with everything that she shared, because really, that's the way it should be. We shouldn't be scared to talk about what we're about to talk about. And I thank her so much for writing the book and sharing her experience with us and letting us know that, sometimes it's not always the job, sometimes it's family. Sometimes it's things that we've been through in regular life that fuck us up. And the job is just an added bonus to the fucked upness. What Makes Us Fire family, please help me welcome Miss Melissa Parker, author of Living Through the Darkness.
I recorded you carrying me up the stairs because, well, I might just want that to be the opening.
There you go. You're doing a little tour.
Yep. So we talked a little bit about how this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
You've listened to a few episodes of the show, so you know how I like to open up the show. First and foremost, thank you very much for coming on the What Makes Us Fire.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Thank you.
It's really freaking cool. You're my first author that has actually come onto the show, and that is still in the service as well. So.
Oh yeah, no. For now, we'll see.
What do you mean for now?
For now, I'm still in the service. We're gonna see how long. There's a joke that whether I'll retire or go out on disability, and it's like I don't want to go out on disability.
No. Disability's horrible.
I know.
Don't go off on disability.
And I don't want to. And there's this tally. It's not a bad thing. It's a joke between.
Yeah, there's a bet.
That I'll go out on a back injury or something. I've already injured my back once, and it still bothers me. But it's like, I asked my doctor. I said, "Can I still work?" And he was like, "Yeah, you can still work." He's like, "It might hurt some days," and I'm like, "Well, that's okay. That's not a big deal."
That is for any and every first responder. Thank you again for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. And I also want to say thank you for showing support to What Makes Us Fire and what I'm trying to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And before we even actually get going, because we are going to talk about it, I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now as we go in. Your book, Living Through the Darkness, y'all, What Makes Us Fire family, go check it out. Melissa Parker, Living Through the Darkness, the firefighter paramedic story of overcoming life's tragedies. This book, for any other first responder out there, it is written for you. I mean, look, the first freaking page. I mean, about the book. So look, I'm not here to write a book to coddle you, make you feel fluffy and warm, or make you feel happy about yourself. That's all on you. I'm here to do is give you some insight how to work toward your goal being a happy fucking person. Like, fuck yes. Like, that is the first paragraph. That's part of the first paragraph. And I was just like, yep, I'm in.
Yep.
And
That's
so
what everybody says. Everybody points it out. They're like, you have to cuss. Yeah.
Well, no shit. You have to cuss. You have to. Oh, by the way, you can cuss whatever. I don't give a shit what you do.
I might. It just comes out naturally.
It usually does with us. But yeah, I read that first and I was just like, you know what? This is written for people like us. And guys, look, large print, double space. It's like, it's literally written for first responders because we're like, is it too much to read? Does it remind me of the textbooks that I had to study? No. It's very easy to read. It literally is in the language we speak. And
it's like a third grade reading level, like for real.
It is so fucking awesome because I'm dumb. And it was like, yes. Like, oh, I loved it. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. But just, you guys, so you know, this is Melissa Parker. She is an author. She is a firefighter paramedic in Kentucky. And she is now a guest on a podcast, which I'm not sure. Have you been a guest on a podcast before?
Nope.
But you have your own podcast.
I used to. I don't do it anymore. Look
at that. I'm being carried by Melissa Parker right now.
You are being carried. I have a tour of the house.
I feel like my hands should be around your neck going, aw, thank you.
I think for 18 hours.
Well, don't take it off. Don't take it off of them. Tourniquet. Watch for compartment syndrome. You don't want to send all that toxic blood back into their system because you'll just end up killing them a very much more painful death than they would have if you just amputate. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that shit.
Right. We're not doing that.
So I like to tell everybody how I got you on the show. And really, it kind of just happened naturally, right? So a lot of the guests that I've been having on as of late, I would find what they're putting out there on either social media or a friend. And I'm like, you know what? I like what this person's got. Let me reach out to them and see if they want to be on the show. But for us, it was different. Like, we kind of met each other on social media on TikTok, right? A lot of my guests come from social media. And I've met a lot of great civil service personnel, first responders, and military, through the social media app. Mm-hmm. In telling my story about mental health and trying to kill the stigma and everything. And I don't know how you found me. I don't know how it happened. But all of a sudden you're popping in my lives and I'm like, oh, she's a firefighter paramedic. I'm following her no matter what, following her. And you messaged me a couple of times like, hey, I have a book. I'd love to send it to you. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. You can send it to me. Here's a P.O. box, whatever. And I totally fucking forgot that you were going to send me a book. Like, it just slipped my mind. Completely slipped my mind. Didn't even remember. And I was on a live, or not a live. You were like the first person to send me something like that. And and that's why I made the unpackaging reveal video. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot. And I was just so ecstatic that you remembered and you sent it because, you always hear people like, hey, I want to send you something, and then nothing ever happens. And it's like,
nothing shows up, yeah.
Yeah, the intention was there. I get it. It's cool. Things happen, but you actually sent it and you signed it, which was awesome. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. Well, I don't have a book to send her back because it would be a coloring book.
Hey, that's okay.
So I reached out to you, and of course, it was, after reading a little bit of your book, I was, man, I would love to have you on the show. I'd love to have you on What Makes Us Fire. You know what we're about. We're about trying to kill the stigma. We're trying to make talking about these things as normal and easy as possible. It shouldn't be a difficult conversation. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it shouldn't be a difficult one. And I loved what you did, and I love what you're putting out there, so I invited you on the show, and you're like, yeah, I'd love to. And it took us a little bit, and now you're here. Now you're on the show. And that's basically how I got you onto the show. It wasn't me stalking you or you stalking me. It was just two people with similar ideas ended up ended up connecting in a really good way, if you ask
And
me.
it's very good. Yep.
After that, Melissa, that's how we met, right? I don't know if you remember it differently. That's how I remember it.
No, that's how we met. A friend of mine actually had shared your live feed with me one day. I was like, "Hey, I think you'll like this." Like, 'cause she knows that I struggle with PTSD, and that I try to reach out to other first responders and stuff and try to get them to open up. You know, like you said, it's about killing the stigma. So she sent me your live one day, and I was like, let's see what this is all about. So I'm watching, and you're kind of like me. When you do your lives, you'll want to talk about certain things, but then like everybody will kind of be like, "Hey, what's up, Josh? Like, what are you doing? Like, how's your day?" And then you just have normal conversations with them and stuff. And so then I was like, well, okay, let me look on his profile. So then I looked at his profile, then I clicked the link, and then I was reading the What Makes Us Fire page and everything. I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh, we got someone out there that's like trying to like reach out and talk about this shit. I was like, okay, follow. And then the more I watched you, I was just like, I'm gonna send him my book. Maybe that's a good introduction. Like, here, let me send you my book. And anybody that I've come across that is out there trying to talk about mental health, especially in emergency services or the military or whatnot. I like to talk to them. I like to get to know them. I like to see what kind of life they had. See what the similarities are. See what some of the differences are. Because you think that you're the same, like you're going through the same thing, but some people had trauma starting from their childhood and it carried off into it. And we can talk about that later. And then some people had a great childhood, and then they were like, oh, I don't want to go be a doctor like Dad. I want to go, be a nurse, or I want to be a paramedic. I want to be an incident firefighter, or whatever. And then it's like, oh shit, I didn't expect any of this crap. And but everybody that I'd reached out to try to talk about it, it's interesting because it's always the ones that are kind of not like blown up, where everybody in the whole world knows you. It's kind of like getting there. It's on a very lower scale, kind of hush. The ones that are out there like trying to make a difference from a lower standpoint. I want to try to get to. I don't want to like burst any bubbles, but there's a icon that's out there now that everybody sees that works in the fire service. It's all about making funny videos and promoting their product. And I did see where they were promoting the mental health thing. And I was like, hey, I'm reaching out about the mental health thing too. I want to, connect with everybody. And here, let me send you my book and my story. And it was just like, and I'm like, okay. I think we need to have a network of people that want to do that. I think if we have a network.
You can say that person's name. It's okay.
Well, his name is Jason.
Oh, yeah. He was on the show.
Oh, are you from the Fire Chronicles?
Yeah, he was episode number 4.
Was he? Oh.
Yeah.
I tried to reach out to him, and it was like and I was like, okay, I'm not trying to like be your friend or nothing per se. I'm just wanting to help with this mental health thing.
He does have to be careful with how many people that are reaching out to him. So
I agree, and that's where I'm kind of like, well, it might be he might be getting swarmed by just like everybody and anybody. But I remember when he was talking about there was another facility for
Brayman.
Brayman.
Yeah. He's a spokesperson for Brayman mental health facilities in Florida.
And that's good because I like to see other places that people can go. Because obviously the place that I went, not everybody can go to. So there's got to be other places where it's like, oh, well, I'm not a member. Where can I go get help? Where can I?
Well, and that's why What Makes Us Fire is doing what Makes Us Fire is doing, because that shouldn't be an issue. Right.
Yeah. Everybody should be able to go somewhere.
Everybody should be able to go wherever the fuck they want when it comes to mental health. Because when you find a place that you feel like is going to really work for you, you shouldn't be held back from it. And that's why I created what I created. And we'll get back into it later. But yes, no, Jason's an amazing guy. If he's somebody you would like to talk to or get in contact with, let me know. Because I think
I was more of just like a, hey, just trying to, like I said, send in my book, be like, hey, take a listen, take a read. You know, I'm working on the audiobook, so take a listen, take a read. Tell me what you think.
Well, I can talk to them. I can talk to them.
It's more of like I want to hear your standpoint on it, and it, like I said, it's resources. Like I like to gather resources. There's several people throughout the country. You're one that I have, recently become connected to, which is great, and that's what my goal is because I do have, I volunteer. I work in EMS as well, and then of course I work at my paid fire department. So I have connections with local law enforcement, volunteer services, just straight EMS, state PD, and the resources that I have are not necessarily for all of them. It's for one or two groups,
Mm-hmm.
Same with like the military. I've just become, affiliated with Warriors Ascent. So it's like, okay. And then we have one in Kentucky now that someone reached out to me and said, hey, there's a new one in Kentucky for first responders. Doesn't matter whether you're career paid, police, fire, EMS, military, or nothing. It's all public service. And I'm like, oh shit. So there's another connection, That's all I'm trying to do with everybody is people that I got a voice out there is to spread it, just like you are. Spread it to more people that, look, we're here. This isn't like it was 15, 20 years ago where you really kept it hush hush. It's like it's okay to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still people that are out there that don't think it is. So it's going to take a bunch of us to.
It's going to take a lot of time. We're behind the curve. That's for damn.
We're very, very far behind.
And we are gonna dive into all that. And we're gonna get into a little bit more specific with all that, and then we are gonna definitely hit on your book. So if I go off into a rabbit trail and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start winding it down, you can be like, hey, my book, motherfucker, my book.
It's whatever you want.
No, but it's also whatever you want too, because I can't make. I mean, if you don't want to talk about something, just say, hey.
I'm pretty open, and the reason why we're talking is because we have subjects to cover. So I'm here to talk about whatever.
Sweet. What I want to start with, and I say want to start with, we actually started. We started quite a bit. And I actually love that because I like when we go into little rabbit holes, right? Because then we get to actually really see and feel where that person's mind's at. How are they actually thinking? Is this just, are they just kind of spewing what they've been practicing? Are they just spewing what they've been writing? Is it a constant reminder? I like rabbit holes because then you can almost catch the real true person, like not the person on the podcast, right? The person that's now in this rabbit trail talking about something they really, really feel a certain way about, and then you get that real true raw emotion. That's why I like little rabbit holes. That granted, if we start going around in circles and we'd be like, okay,
we're in squirrel nests. That's where I'm at. Squirrel
nest. Yeah, there's a lot of nuts in squirrel nests, and we try to stay away from the nuts. Or at least I do. Sorry, firefighter humor. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
I want to start, Melissa, with where you come from. And not, don't give me this, well, I'm from Kentucky. No, that's not what I fucking mean. I mean, from little Melissa Parker up until now. Where did you grow up? What was family life like? What was school like? Let's talk about it. Fuck, let's get into it,
Are you ready for that?
I got my whiskey at 9 o'clock in the morning, so yeah, I'm fucking ready.
All right. Oh, okay. Well, you're a bourbon guy. That's good. So that means I need to send you some good old Kentucky bourbon. So.
Oh hell, girl! Do not threaten me with a good time.
Oh, I'm not. I don't make threats. I make promises.
I like it.
I'll have to send you some. But my life is a very wild ride, and I don't compare my life to anybody else because everybody has a story, and we all have a story. But so I grew up in Maine. Okay, I was born in Maine. My dad was an alcoholic. He was in the Navy. He got out like right before I was born. He knew that my mother was pregnant, so he was just like, "Okay, I'm out. I'm done." Not to mention, my dad. He was an excellent seaman, and all his officers directly above him were like, man, you need to apply for promotion. And he met all the criteria for promotion. So, he wrote his intent letter for promotion, and sadly he got turned down. So he hit a big state of depression when he was turned down, because it's basically just like any results. It's all about who you know, who you blow. So unfortunately, my dad got the short end of the stick. Found out that my mother was pregnant.
No,
it was
even the military works that way? Really?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's the Navy. It's the Navy, so I try not to pick at each service, but I do that too, just like I do with ours. But
yeah, my all my family was Navy too. My father retired Navy, 30-something years. My stepmother was reserve. My mom was Navy.
Oh, there you go.
All my uncles were Navy. I think only one was Air Force. My stepfather.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my stepfather was Marines, which technically is a part of the Navy. So
it is.
So Navy was definitely something with me growing up. So I definitely know what you're talking about when it comes to Navy and stuff like that.
Well,
but anyway, your mother.
My mother. You're fine. My mother. So she was born in Kankakee, Illinois.
What,
my dad's
say
from
that again?
Kankakee, Illinois.
What?
Kankakee.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. My dad's side of the family is all from Boston. Like we came off the boat into Boston in the 1800s.
Okay. Irish?
My dad, Irish and English, yes. So came to Boston. We lived in New England. My mother came from Illinois, had moved to Florida, met my dad in Florida. She was working at Patrick's Air Force Base, and she's always worked as a civil contractor through the military. So she worked at Patrick's Air Force Base, and then she went to, I don't even remember. It's one of the naval bases in northern Florida, where she met my dad. And then they moved, and he transferred units to Maine, which that base is no longer there, which is the Brunswick Naval Air Station. So I was born in Brunswick, and Dad got out of the Navy. He was disabled. He worked like a random industrial job for a little bit, became disabled. He ended up having something called alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, which is it affects your lungs.
Okay.
And apparently it's genetic, so I carry a gene of it, but I don't know a whole lot about it. All I know is that he ended up having to have infusions every week, and he was sick and hacking all the time. He used to smoke, but he quit, when I was really young. And he was just a drunk. He turned into a drunk. He would drink a handle of vodka a day. I mean, he would just sit there and just drink. Like, he didn't chase, no chasing, no nothing. And he'd drink. And
so he became what we know is in the first responder world. I'm assuming he became a functioning alcoholic, is what we call
he was
it.
a very functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
He could do anything, but except the fact that his mentality, he was very, very violent. And, I've noticed over the years, vodka tends to do that to people. So, and keep in mind the vodka, because we'll get into my issues.
Vodka and whiskey.
Vodka and whiskey. Whiskey makes me happy. Whiskey makes me frisky.
Hey, girl. Hey, some whiskey right here.
All right, let's go. But yeah, so I played sports. I started playing softball when I was like 8. I played all the way through high school. I played soccer. I did martial arts for 13 years. I was always active doing stuff. And
any siblings?
I have a brother. Well, he's a half brother, but he's a full brother.
So half brother. So at some point, you guys, your parents divorced.
Well, my mom was married previously and had my brother.
Oh, okay.
Before I was born. So
okay.
When I was born, it was just my mom and my dad and my brother. So that's why I consider him my full brother, is because he didn't know his dad. His dad was just as much of a piece of shit as, my dad turned into. So his dad was trying to get him to sell drugs when he was probably 10, 12, So my brother and I kind of both come from fucked up dads. So
don't we all?
And both in the military. Both in the fucking military, right? So my brother's...
What does that say? What does that say? Where's the common theme here? The military can possibly fuck you up?
Oh, yeah. So can this job. I mean, we just all fucked up.
Is it a possibility?
It could be. It could be.
I'm gonna talk to you about numbers. I guarantee you.
All the numbers.
There's a correlation. I can say there's a correlation. I can't say there is a connection. If we're talking scientifically, I can't say there's a connection, but there is definitely a very strong correlation. Anyway, yes. So they both come up from fucked up fathers.
Yep. It was just like my dad, he every now and then he'd come to my games or whatever, but he'd just be drunk, and my mom couldn't come a whole lot because she was the worker, right? My mom worked every single day. She was the primary source of income. She wore the pants in the family. My dad wore a dress because he didn't want to do a damn thing. No offense, you know what I'm saying, but he. No,
I know what you're saying. You're not going to offend me with talk like that. Look, I understand that some people, when they use their innuendos or their what's what I'm looking for? Damn it, I lost the word.
I think I know what you're talking about, though.
Like when they try to describe something.
Yes.
Right? And they're using I can't think of the word.
They're using that.
Yes.
I would say anybody knows what you're trying to say because I know what you're trying to say.
They're using something else to describe something, right? And so you will not offend me with anything you say, even if I don't even believe it, you would not offend me at all. Like
I didn't think I would, but
really hard to fucking
we live in. There may be a listener. It's like, oh, that bitch.
Well, then you know what? You know what they can do? You know what they can do? Stop.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen anymore.
Exactly. Well, that's too easy. That's too easy. But yeah, he didn't do nothing. He pretty much just mooched off my mother, right? And now don't get me wrong. There were times when he was sober, he was great, but he may have been sober like a couple hours in a week. I mean, I'm not even being facetious when I say he was drinking a handle every day,
right?
And it was just like water to him. So he went through rehab. My mother said basically you go through rehab and get a divorce. Went through rehab. He stayed sober for a little bit, and then I just happened to catch him one day. I don't know. I was probably 13 or so. He'd come home, driving home, and I had gotten back from school. I look outside and I see him, and he's got a little pint, and he takes it out from his coat. I'm watching. He's sticking it under the seat in the car, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I didn't say anything because I was afraid I was going to get an ass whooping. Right? Mm-hmm. My dad didn't hit me a whole lot during the first portion of the years, but he was very verbally, emotionally abusive. And then later on down the road, in my middle to / later teens, like right before he died, he would start throwing shit, chairs, plates. He grabbed me in the hallway one day because I basically got to the point where I wasn't dealing with the shit.
You were starting to stand up.
I was starting to stand up myself. And, at that point, he would taunt me, and he'd like, you've taken martial arts for so long, why don't you go ahead and beat me up there? Why don't you beat me up? And, I'm not going to hit my dad. And surely enough, he, grabs me by the throat and fucking slams my head into the wall in the hallway, puts a hole in the wall. And I was able to get out of it and run to my neighbor's house. My neighbor's father was like my second dad growing up. He was a captain for the fire department in Brunswick. And he was like, I'm calling the fucking police. He's like, I'm fucking sick and tired of this shit. I'm calling the police. So, like, we literally stood on the back porch because he was on the opposite corner. We lived on the opposite corner of the house. Stood on the back porch, watched the police pull in, watched the police pull out. Now, I was in trouble with the law all the time. Hung out with the wrong kids. I was, drinking.
Even at 13.
Even at 13. I started smoking marijuana when I was 12.
That's something else. I don't.
Yeah, that's something else now. Like, now I'm. Obviously, at that time, it wasn't okay. You know, now, my beliefs are just legalize it and tax the shit out of it. I don't care. But, I was smoking pot and I was drinking and I was going to the liquor stores and I was stealing, beers, and I was a genius when it comes to stealing shit. So I would steal all the liquor. Mm-hmm. Everybody would be like, hey man, I want a fifth of Ice 101. I'd be like, I'll be right back. And, I'd go and I'd buy a pack of candy and I'd look around, I'd reach over from the candy aisle, grab a bottle of Ice 101, slide it down my pants, go up to the counter. Here you go, want that. Wanted cigarettes. I smoked that when I was young too. They used to, when we were younger, they used to put the cigarettes right up front. You could just grab them, here you go. So I used to buy pop or something or candy or something, then I'd nudge my elbow and fall on the floor and I'd be, oh, I'm sorry. And I'd reach down before they'd come over to help me and I'd be like, oh, cigarettes. So I was stealing cigarettes, liquor, I stole my neighbor's 3-wheeler. I got in trouble for that. And so I was being rebellious,
I want to stop you. I want to stop you real quick. You're trying to finish the story about when the police came and they left with your father after this physical incident. But I want to ask you, why do you think you were acting out? Why do you think you were being the way you were?
Well, I was
13 years old.
I know now, before because I didn't do therapy.
Right, yeah, because retrospectively, it's easy to look back. Right, hindsight's 20/20. Right, we can see things we didn't see before at the time. But I'm trying. What I guess I'm asking you is going back to that 13-year-old mind. What would that 13-year-old Melissa? What would her excuse would have been as to why she was doing the things that she was doing?
Oh, okay. I was getting attention from my friends, and at that time, at the time when I was 13, I was like, fucking everybody loves me, man. I was like, I'm the shit. Like, I can get all this crap, and these people love me because I'm the one that can get in there and get the alcohol. I'm the one that can get in there and get the cigarettes, and I'm the best when it comes to this shit. And no one else would do it, right? So
if I had a friend like you growing up, yeah, don't get me wrong, it would have been cool, right? Holy shit, yeah, we want to drink, ask Melissa. Hey, we want to smoke, ask Melissa. I get it. But for me, looking from the outside in, for me, it wouldn't be so much that you can get it. It would be that, holy shit, she has the balls to get it. She has she has the I don't give a fuck. That, from the outside in, that is what made you attractive in that way. And that, when I say attractive, as a person, I would want to be
right.
Especially because, when you're young and you allow your inhibitions to take over it, and you're like, I can't do that, but Melissa can, or I would, but I'm not sure. Melissa doesn't give a fuck. Let's ask her. That would have drew me to you, right? But again, then you're drawing the wrong crowd.
Right. Yep. So, and I learned that later. But, I had such a bad rapport, with the police that, when they came and then they left, I was like, they don't believe me, They don't believe me.
Almost like the girl who cried wolf.
Yep, they don't believe me. And so when I was 13, I was part of a summer rec, right? Summer recreational program. It was where, kids could go and you could go on field trips and they had day things you could do during the day. Basically keep you off the streets, right? I didn't grow up in a bad area, right? I grew up in a little town called Lisbon Falls in Maine. I knew everybody. Everybody knew me when I was a kid. Parents didn't want their kids hanging out with me. I was a bad influence. Yeah. And so, I went to rec one day. I had gone to Girl Scout camp, earlier in that year. I got a Swiss Army knife. I learned how to fucking whittle. So I'm sitting over there whittling. And mind you, even though I was this quote unquote maybe badass because I could do all this shit, I was still bullied, right? So I was still picked on because I was real small, like I'm short and shit. And this kid tried to run me over on his bike. So what do? I've got a stick in one hand and a knife in the other. What do? I get up and I start running at this motherfucker, right? So I run at this kid and I run so fast and I get up at him enough to stick the stick in between the spokes of his bike, and the way he goes, boom, fly, bam. So police come knocking on the door and they got me for running after him with a knife. So I went to jail for that. I went to the county jail, and then I was sentenced to 30 days in the youth detention facility. So there was my first experience in jail. And then, of course, I come back and I'm stealing and all this stuff, and I'm violating my probation from stealing and truancy from school and all sorts of shit. So, the police come to the house, and then they leave, and it's like they don't fucking believe me. Like, they don't believe me. And then as many times as I would tell my mother, and my mother, she's the greatest woman on the face of this earth. She always has been. Even though I'd tell my mother, dad's been being abusive or whatever, or dad hit me or dad did this, she would be like, well, it was probably your behavior and you getting in trouble all the time. And, he probably didn't hit you. She was in denial about that, right? She wasn't there to see it, right? So that day, when the police left, I watched and I saw my mother pull home from work, went to the house. There was the hole in the wall. There's my dad. That fucking bitch right there. She put a fucking hole in the wall. Blah, 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 all this shit. And my mother's, I was like, no, Dad, put my head through the fucking wall. And she said, get the fuck out. Not to me, but to my father. Get the fuck out. And that's when they ended up filing, she ended up filing papers to get a divorce. It's because it finally kicked in. She was like, I'm sorry. Whatever. So Dad started getting sick. You know, he got his own place. He moved above the bar that he fucking went to all the time, which I was going to that bar ever since I was a little kid. I was going to that bar. I was in a bar atmosphere from like the age of 5 all the way up until he died. I would sit in there. I would hang out, watch them drink, smoke, play pool. My dad was on a billiards team, play fucking cribbage. He was on a cribbage, you know, do cribbage tournaments, drinking, hanging out, and everything. And I was around that all the time from the ages of 5 all the way up. Christmas parties at that bar we went to. It was like there was like a big old family. It was a members only club.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I've been exposed to that my entire life. Dad dies because he ended up getting liver cirrhosis. He started blowing up like a fucking fish. I mean, the motherfucker was fat as shit. You know, and he was a pretty ripped, thin guy, you know. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with you, dude? Like Dad. He's like, all the doctor says I'm retaining water. Of course, I learned later on in life what that was. Mm-hmm. And then surely enough, he slipped into a coma and died, and they said it was liver cirrhosis. So he was 43, I believe he died in that.
Wow.
97 he died. He
That's
was
young. Mm-hmm.
So he died from that. So then it was just my mother and I. And it got worse after that. Continued to steal. I wouldn't necessarily be running away, but I'd be going out. My mom would be like, be home at 10. I'd show up 3 o'clock in the morning. She'd be like, you're not coming in. You know, and then I'd sit on the porch, and then she'd be like, okay, I'll let you in. And I'd been drinking all night, smoking, you know, doing pills, like all sorts of shit. And then a friend of mine, you know, had said she got raped one day when I was in school. And me being the person that I was, confronted this guy in school. And I punched him in the face, and I got suspended for 10 days. Mm-hmm. When I got back from suspension, he said, did you learn your lesson from your suspension? And I was like, don't even fucking talk to me, because I'll fuck you up after school. So I followed him home after school, me and a friend of mine, and he was like, if you touch me, I'm going to be forced to defend myself. And of course, me being young and cocky and I know it all, I'm laughing. I'm like, you're going to defend yourself? Like, what the fuck are you going to do, you know? And so I went up to him and I nudged him, and surely enough, he had me down on the ground. He was a wailing on my face. Bam, bam, bam. I was getting the shit beat the fuck out of me. But then I had just enough effort to reach up and grab him by his throat. And I grabbed his trachea and like fucking squeezed, and he's gagging. And he fucking pushes me off and fucking lays over on the ground. I got up as quick as I could, and I kicked him as hard as I could in the head. And that was all she wrote. He was knocked out, and I was like, fuck, you know, maybe I killed him. I need to get the fuck out of here. My friend Brandy's like, I haven't been here. I didn't see this. I'm leaving. Mel, don't talk to me. And I was like, fuck, you know. So I ran to my friend's house, and she's like wondering why my nose is all bloody and shit. And I was like, she's like, you got a fight with James, didn't you? And I was like, dude, I was like, he had me on the fucking ground. She's like, do you know my mom ain't going to want to see this? Go home. She's like, I'm going to be in so much trouble if you're here. I was like, fuck. So I went home, you know, and I quickly went to my room. My mother was home. She didn't see anything. Melissa, what are you doing? I said, I'm just going to my room. Police department shows up. Away I go. Violation of probation, and then I had an assault on me. And my mother turned me in because I had forged checks in her name and took all her money. So we went to court, and my mother said, lock her up. And I was like, my mother was like, I'm fed up. Lock her up. And I was like, goddamn. So I did. I got locked up from the age of 17. I was locked up until the age of 18, my 18th birthday. And, you know, at the time, I fucking hated my mother, you know, for doing that. But the more time that I did in there, I was there with people, like people that were in there for murder. And like, you know, there was one girl that was in there that sat on her aunt and just stabbed. I mean, just kept stabbing, just like some crazy shit you'd see on some fucking crazy film, you know, just kept stabbing. I'm like, I'm in here with I was in here with another girl that blew her brother's head off his shoulder with a shotgun. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in here? Like, I just got in a fist fight. Like, I didn't kill anybody. I just stole some fucking shit. I didn't kill anybody. I was like,
Yeah, but you were afraid that you almost did.
I was afraid I almost did. And I was like,
So I want you to, I'm going to challenge you to think about something here.
yeah.
I'm going to challenge you to think about something. Had you not been caught, had you been able to continue what you were doing, had you been able to continue to just get away with it and have unwavering support until somebody got fed up. Say your mother didn't get fed up.
Right.
We all know that now is enabling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who's to say that possibly you couldn't have grown into one of those women you would have been in there with?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, for the longest time, I hated my mother for it. But then when reality kicked in, I was like, you know what? That's a good thing she did that.
Tough love.
And I told her that, later. I said, when I get out of here, I said, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do something. I'm going to get away from all these people that are supposedly my friends, And I did, I got out. I enrolled in an EMT class and I enrolled in college. Did that. My mother was like, oh, you stay here while you're in school, but you also have to hold a job. I said, okay. So I held the job. I paid rent to my mother. I went to school. I got rid of my friends. I made new friends. There were still some that were kind of, popping in here and there that, and I'm like, eh. And I got on the first fire department that I had worked at when I was up there. And a good friend of mine out of state had said, and my roommate moved out, if you ever feel froggy and you want to come to Kentucky, why don't you come to Kentucky? I said, why the fuck would I go to Kentucky? What the fuck would I do down there? Like, why the fuck would I go to Kentucky? I ain't never been there. And I've been all over the country, but I ain't never been there. And, I was like, fuck it. So I upped and left everything and went to Kentucky. And I dropped everybody off. Like, I wrote everybody off. And my real friends were the ones which I'm still friends with today. And there's like 4, 5 maybe,
Mm-hmm.
that would be like checking on me randomly. Hey, how's Kentucky? How are you doing? And I'm like, holy shit. Like, they're still talking to me. And then when I go home to visit, the old friends be like, oh shit, Mel's here. Hey, we should hang out. And I'm like,
motherfucker,
nah.
you didn't even talk to me while I was gone. You only talked to me while I'm here. Yeah.
And suddenly I'm here, And I told my mother, after I had, I came to Kentucky, went to college for 2 years, did the fire science program, got my firefighter 1, my firefighter 2, hazmat tech, every rescue technician shit that you can get. And then I said, you know what? I said, I want to be a paramedic too. So I went through paramedic school. And after that, my mother was like, yeah, you've done so good, compared to what you were, you did so good. And I'm so proud of you. And I said, you know what, Mom? I said, I really felt like I had a lot of hate for you back in the day, but I'm glad you did what you did. And I was like, if you didn't do that, who's to say that I'd be doing any of this today and I wouldn't be in prison or some shit, and it's, of course, this has been many years ago. I'm 39. I'll be turning 39 this year. So, it was a good thing. And what was funny, kind of breaking away from that happy ending for the most part, when I was younger, I played guitar my whole life and I played in a little band, and we'd like go play, these little concerts and stuff. My mother'd be like, oh, you ain't gonna fucking do that. You don't need to do that. You don't need to be playing in no band. And then I became a DJ and traveled all over the country and North America and Europe and Australia and around drugs every day. And I did them every time, which I hadn't gotten into my substance stuff yet. But, and she never like was like, you don't need to be DJing. Like, like,
yeah, well, the thing logically here, you weren't there.
No.
She didn't have to worry about you, right? Out of sight, out of mind. Let's be honest. That's probably what it was. It was probably out of sight, out of mind. She's not coming home wasted. She's not begging me for money. She's not causing issue here at home.
No, I never asked anybody for money. I've never been the person to ask anybody for anything, which is one of the reasons why it took me so long to finally ask for help. But I never did ask anybody for anything. I always felt like I was a burden to ask for help, or ask for something if I needed it. When I was a kid, which I think just about every kid steals something in their life, whether it be gum or candy from the fucking something, or a couple bucks from your mom's pocketbook or something. A lot of kids, tend to pickpocket a little bit. I just did it a little more as a kid, because it was nice as a kid getting those things that your parents wouldn't buy you, and all. But mom knew I was
variety from your peers.
Oh yeah, like it was like, oh dude, like Mel's got the best. Like I bought all the Janko jeans. I had all the Jankos, man.
Jankos.
Fuck yeah, dude. I had all.
Don't even get me started with some Jankos with the fucking 2-foot long back pockets.
That's right, man. Those were the kangaroos, man.
Yeah.
I had them all. I had them all, and I bought them all with all that. And everybody be like, damn, like Mel's got the new Jankos. Like, oh fuck, like man, like back then, they were $60, $70 a pair. Now if you buy the old ones, they're like $200. But I had everything. I had all the band T-shirts. I had the best bike. It's like I had to have the best of everything. Mom be like, "Where are you getting all this stuff?" I'd be like, "Oh, a friend of mine got it or some shit." I was lying all the time to my parents. But I started DJing when I was a kid. I had turntables when I was 16. Between that and playing guitar, my mother would get all pissed off because I'd have the music bouncing in the room. She'd be like, "You need to turn that down, and you need to just play it in your headphones." I'd be like, "But Mom, it's not the same. You can't play it in your headphones. You got to play it on the speaker." Well, you need to turn the speaker down a little bit, And then I'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to Canada this week."
At 16.
I was 17 when I went to Canada the first time.
Damn. Still technically a minor.
Yeah. When I went to school, after I went to jail the first time, or the second time, this was the last time, 17. After I went to jail, I didn't do anything for a while. I came home, got the job, did all that stuff, and then it was, okay, well, I can DJ on the weekends. So then I was back to Canada, on the weekends. Go to Canada on the weekends, New York City, Philadelphia. Mom be like, "Where are you going today?" "Oh, I'm going to New Brunswick, Canada," because I played a lot in Quebec. I'm going to New Brunswick, Canada. It was like a 3-4 hour drive for me. July 4th, I'm going to New York City. "What the fuck are you doing in New York City?" "I'm going to play, at the Hammerstein Ballroom," and then we did a lot of outlaw raves. We call them outlaws, where it's in the middle of nowhere, some old abandoned, warehouse or some old, field out in the middle of nowhere. Poland Spring Water. I don't know if y'all got it in Texas. I know they're starting to distribute it nationwide now, but Poland Spring Water. Poland Spring is in Maine, and I was invited to play in an outlaw Poland Spring property. Mm-hmm. So where the fucking spring water comes from, they just set up speakers out in the middle of the damn spring, and there was like, "Bring your records, and you get a few you can play." And I was like, okay, and then it was, everybody was always fucked up on ecstasy, and
which is a common drug for raves.
Oh, absolutely, ecstasy, and and you'd think ecstasy is it, and there was so much more. So I was like, oh, I had a really bad headache one day. A friend of mine was like, "Here, take this pill." I was like, "Dude, I ain't never fucking done that, like none of this shit before." And, I was already an EMT, right? And take this and it'll get rid of your headache. And I was like, this is a good friend of mine that I trust. So I'm like, fuck it, you only live once, right? YOLO. So yeah, I take this pill, right? And you ever seen the movie Bad Boys with Will Smith?
Yeah. So when Martin Lawrence just like, "It's so hot. I need water." He's drinking water out of the fucking flower vase.
Yes.
Oh, you feel so good.
Yeah. Well, those pills that he got, how they were trying to make the bust and had the naked lady on it. Mm-hmm. Those are real, and that's what I did. They're called G-spots. So you had that naked lady on the front, right? And on the back you had a G with a period. They're called G spots. So I did one of them. It was all white. And I was like, damn. I was like, my headache's going. I said, I'm having the fucking time of my life. I said, I love this shit. So now it was anytime I go DJ someplace, and this even happened in Canada, like people being like, here's drugs, here's this. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you know? Like I'm getting paid $400, $500, $600, $700 an hour to play. And like, I'm the main event. Like I'm the headliner, and I'm getting free drugs, free booze, free anything I want. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So, you know, Canada, it was speed. It was like, here, you want this? It's peach. I'm like, peach? What the fuck is peach? And the promoter's like, it's speed. And I'm like, well, fuck yeah, let's do that. You know, let's do speed. So between, you know, speed, ecstasy, and then it was ketamine. You know, ketamine was a big club drug.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So you
ever K-hold yourself?
I have not K-hold myself. I've done enough cocaine where I should have probably had a heart attack. I thought I was having a heart attack, and of course, you know, later down the road after I got my medic, I'm like, I did a lot of cocaine back in the day. I'm gonna go ahead and hook this 12 lead up to myself and see if I have any damage. But no. But yeah, everywhere I went, I was doing drugs, and I never got into heroin. I lost my best friend on it, so I never wanted to touch it. I don't like needles.
Isn't that crazy? Look, yeah. I'm gonna go off into a bunny trail.
You're good. Yeah.
Look. Your story is unique to you, but it's actually not all that unique when it comes to people that experiment with drugs.
Oh yeah,
start using drugs. It's absolutely unique to you, right? But it's weird how we limit ourselves. Like we have our own little moralistic limit here. I'll do this and this and this and this and this to my body, and I'll put this and this and this and that to my body. But that thing, even though all this other shit's fucking me up. That thing right there, I'm not going to put that in my body. And it's like,
that's right.
And somebody on the outside looking in is like, you're already doing all this other shit. Like, really? Your morals are stopping you at that?
Right.
Like, where does that come from? Where does that idea come from where it's like, I will fuck up my body this much, but I just don't want to fuck up my body that much. And it's right. You're already fucking up your body. You're already doing these things that obviously are not meant to be inside of you. And right. I'm not going to say I haven't, and I'm not going to say I have, but there's things that I have tried back when I was way younger.
Right.
But yeah, no, like, where do you think that moralistic idea comes from when we're already like willing to do what we're doing to ourselves? Now it's like, we're willing to do all these things to ourselves, but we're going to go ahead and put a limit here. Where do you think that comes from? Why do you think that is? For you, obviously, it was probably a traumatic experience associated with a certain drug, heroin, right? You saw your friend die on it. So for you, it was a traumatic experience that you tied to that drug. But had that traumatic experience never happened, would you have?
No. I don't think so. I don't think I would have. It's like meth. You know, meth, I never touched it. I never had a desire to. The meth, the only reason why I didn't is because I've been around people that have been on it. I've smelt it, and it smells like fucking paint thinner, and I'm like, and I know what it's made out of, and I'm like, how the fuck do you put that shit in your body? Like,
yeah, but, you know, but X and all that other stuff, like, yeah, well, that's fine that you put that in your body.
That's true. That is true. But I'm like, I can't be putting battery acid and fucking sulfur and fucking.
So I guess my question is, when did you draw that line? Where did that line come from? You're willing to put other things in your body that don't belong there.
I don't know.
So where did that line come from? Where do you think it is? And I'm asking somebody, look, 100% you've used way more than I have, right? And you've used more things than I have ever used. And that's why I'm curious, because look, addiction is very, very, it's a mental health disease. Mm-hmm. And it can be a created mental health disease. It doesn't necessarily have to be hereditary. You can actually end up creating that disease by doing drugs, by putting substances in your body that your body's like, holy shit, this is really good. And you continue to use it. Now your body's relying on it. And then if you stop, you go through DTs, detox, and, you know, you get real sick. Could possibly die because your body
now doesn't even realize or know how to operate without it. My question is, why do you think, or where did that line get drawn for certain people, for certain drug users? How for you, I guess it would be different for others, but I think there's a commonality here somewhere where there's this epiphany that they might have that I'm going to do this because this is fine, but I'm going to stop at this because this is not fine, even though it's still something that shouldn't be going into your body. Where do you think that line is drawn? Where does this moralistic, where does this epiphany moment come from?
So the heroin, the only reason why I didn't want to do, I always liked uppers, right? I have ADHD. I always like being excited and awake and having the time of my life. I'd seen too many people doing heroin. You know, my best friend died from doing it. You know, he'd overdosed before. And I'm like, you know, how do you fucking do that stuff? I mean, like, what do you get out of it? Because it's a downer. Like, what do you get out? It's a depressant. So what do you get out of that? He's like, oh, you know, he'd be like, it's just the most relaxing feeling you can ever have in the world. And it's just so
euphoria.
Good. Euphoria. Yeah. And I'm like, you know, that's not my thing. I like speed. Like, I like speedy shit. I like stimulants, you know, and then the meth, the only reason why I said it saying I wasn't going to do meth is because I knew what was in it and I didn't like the smell. That was really it. I had no desire.
Funny. Isn't that funny? I didn't like the smell, so I didn't want to do it.
I didn't like the smell. It was like fucking paint thinner. I'm like, if I'm gonna fucking smoke this shit, you know. And I know people that snort meth now, but when I was younger, it was you smoked it. You put it in a fucking crack pipe, and you fucking put it. They called it glass or shards. You put it in the bottom of it, and it melts and smokes off when you smoke. And I said, I ain't fucking doing that motherfucking shit. I said, fuck that crap. I don't give a damn if you're up for 5 days and you're like bug-eyed. And that's like, and look at your fucking teeth. Like, I got thousands of dollars in these teeth. I don't want to rot these teeth out. You know, and I worked in EMS. I worked in EMS, worked in the fire department when I was doing all this shit. You know,
how the hell did you manage to get away with that?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. And I was drinking heavily. Like, I was heavily drinking, and I was drinking vodka. Mm-hmm. I would drink a fifth probably 3-4 times a week. And it wasn't every day because I had to work and I had school and all that stuff. But I was drinking a lot. And on the weekends, if I wasn't working, I was binge drinking and or DJing events where I'd be drinking and doing drugs. And the cool thing about that is the reason why I did that is because I could drink a shit ton of tequila, snort 2 or 3 lines of cocaine, and they counteract each other. And I'm drunk, but I'm awake. Like, I'm like, whoa, you know, like I'm ready to roll. And it's all good, you know, but like, as far as working, you know, I had, when I moved to Kentucky, I worked a few other places, but then I picked up a job, you know, it was hard to get on a fire department here at the time. And, of course now it's easy, but it was hard to get on a fire department at the time. So I was like, man, you know, I got to keep my license and, you know, I got to keep practicing my skills, at least keep my EMT up to date. Fuck, let's see what's out there for work, you know. And never worked private sector in my life. I never will again, but never worked private sector in my life. I worked for this company called Rural Metro, which a lot of people are familiar with. AMR bought them out now.
Yeah, transport service.
Yes. So I was like, well, fuck it, that's a job and they pay good, so it's a job. Let's do it. So, you know, I worked at Rural Metro, and there was people that I worked with at Rural Metro that knew I DJ'd, you know. Where are you going this week? You know, Mel, whatever. You know, I'd find vacation time for other days that, or do trade time or something for other days where I'd get booked in big city. You know, big cities where I like to play. And they all had their suspicions that I did stuff at parties. Mm-hmm. Well, surprisingly, I went and played in Philly. I had a massive show in Philly. I ended up staying for 2 extra days because A, I made a shit ton of money, and B, the promoter fucking absolutely loved me. So he was like, let me show you around Philly. Like, let's go run up the fucking, the art museum steps and scream fucking, Adrian! You know, just fucking, like, I was like, where's Rocky at? You know, and, you know, I had the time of my life, but I did not do any drugs that night, right? I was like, I'm not going to do anything. I just didn't feel like doing it. Well, I come back, and supervisor comes and says, Mel, I need you to go over to the, you know, where we got our drug test. I need you to go get a drug screen. I was like, okay. And they're like, we have reason to believe that you've been using drugs lately. And I was like, I wonder who the fuck ratted me out.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I'm like, okay, not a big deal because I know I don't have anything in my system. I didn't smoke pot. You know, I stopped smoking pot when I started doing this job because I know it stays in your system for, 30
A
days.
lot longer. Yeah.
Cocaine stuff only like 3-4 days max, and so I was like, okay. I said, I'm going to go get this drug screen done. And of course I went over there and we got the results the same day. I got my little paper. I was like, came back to work and I was like, here you go. And she looks at it. She's like, okay. So I went back to work. Well, then the next day I come in and they said, you're going to have to go home. And I was like, why? And they're like, well, you're on administrative leave right now pending an investigation for drug use and selling drugs at work. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, there's one thing that I don't do, and that's sell drugs. And I was like, drug use? I was like, you just did a random screen, the other day. It was negative. Like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, someone's done fucking ratted me out.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that it was someone that ratted me out. Someone had sent me a message asking me to get them cocaine. And I said, I can't get it for you. And surely enough, I guess that person turned me in saying that I use it and that I was trying to get them cocaine. But I never did try to get them cocaine. So instead of getting, I guess I would have been fired probably. Really fucking stupid. I just went ahead and called them after I heard that, and I went ahead and called them. I was like, you know what? I'm quitting. I quit. And they were like, well, what are you quitting for? I was like, because. I was like, y'all are thinking I'm selling fucking drugs. And it turned out it was fucking pills. They thought I was fucking selling pills. I don't have fucking pills. Like, where is this coming from? So I already started getting a bad report because I was DJing and everybody knew I was using drugs when I was DJing. Everybody knew I was fucking drinking all the time. And I guess someone got pissed off, which, I mean, I can't blame them for that because even though I never came to work high or drunk, it's not to say that I didn't drink too much the night before and come into work hungover many times, or whatever. It was a safety factor, I'm sure, but so, after that, I continued to DJ up until about, I want to say 2011-ish, 12 maybe. I said, you know what? I said, I'm just going to stop. I said, I'm just going to get out of all this. I'm not going to do anymore. Of course, I stopped doing drugs long before that.
What drew you to stop doing drugs? Was it the experience you had with this job, or what was it that? Because look, it's very hard for a lot of people that have been doing that live that lifestyle, that sometimes they know what that feeling can bring to them, and just saying stop, I'm not going to do it anymore, is a little bit harder than just saying I'm going to stop, I'm not doing it anymore sometimes. Right. So how did you get to that point? What was it for you to get to that point where you just said, you know what? I need to stop doing this, or I want to stop doing this.
So, in the DJ world, the DJ, a good DJ, will DJ an event, do drugs, drink, whatever. And then when they're done, they're, usually have about an hour. Each DJ has about an hour. Peak times, headline times are anywhere between 11 o'clock p.m. and 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you played within those times, that was usually the height of the party. That was when everybody was up and their drugs had reached their peak and they were having a fucking blast. And it was almost like those drugs were part of the culture, right?
Well, they are. Let's be honest. They are part of that culture.
It helps. And unless someone has really been into the rave scene, I'm sure there'll probably be listeners that used to be. Because it's much different now than it used to be. Unless someone's really into the rave scene, you didn't really do any of that stuff. You just kind of came and you stood around. And what the thing was is that ecstasy obviously was the primary thing. It was because it heightened all your senses. So it heightened your sense of smell. It heightened your sense of touch. The sound was 10 times better. The overall emotional happiness that you got from it. It was like if everybody could do ecstasy every single day, they'd never be depressed. But the problem is when you come down from it, you're fucking depressed.
Right. They call it the Monday blues.
Yeah, you're the complete opposite. You go from fucking feeling like you're But nothing can go wrong in your life. You love everybody.
So let's explain exactly what ecstasy does here for a second, just so everybody kind of understands. Ecstasy will boost your serotonin to a level and your dopamine to a level where ain't nothing in this world is bad.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is this chemical is flooding your brain. And when you come down off of it, you are just at this peak. Anything beneath that level is suck. There's people that have fallen and have given themselves lifelong depression because now their brains don't know how to function without it.
Yep.
That's what happens with this drug. And that's why I'm asking, like, how were you able to come off of it? How were you able to stop that and not, I'm assuming you're okay now. You still, you still battle with depression and everything, and which we're going to get into, but I'm hearing your story. It's like, there's no way that your history does not play a part into what you're suffering from.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely does. And when it came to, everything, which we can talk about later, from the job, it just added, like, it's just, that's why they technically call it all that stuff complex PTSD, because your standard PTSD is usually as a result of one single event.
One incident, yep.
Where we're exposed or have been, and there's many people even in public service that have been exposed to traumatic events way long before they got into public service. So they were exposed from traumatic events from childhood all the way up to current, and but with, I didn't have the depression that I guess like your typical people, like, oh, I'm depressed, I'm going to sit out, I'm going to eat my life away, or I'm going to, not do anything. I would use ecstasy anytime I DJ'd at an event, and that was anywhere from, 1 or 2 to 4 times a week. It all depended on the time of the year. Summer times were always hot. That was when everybody was throwing parties. Winter times, it was like, maybe once or twice a week I'd go somewhere. Baltimore, I went to Baltimore in the winter time. I went to Pennsylvania one time. But I didn't have any problem stopping that per se. I didn't really have a whole lot of lasting effects, because not all ecstasy is created equally.
That is very true.
So some of them are cut with different things. I'd done enough of it where I could literally break the pill in half and tell you whether it had heroin in it or if it had speed in it or whatnot, because of the breaking in half, looking at it and just going, oh, this is going to be a speedy. We call them rolls. This is going to be a speedy roll. Oh, this one's going to be down. I don't fucking want it, So I tried to stay with the speedy rolls, and if I couldn't get any of that, then I used cocaine. And all of this stuff was free, so it makes it even harder when you get it for free,
Right. So how did you stop?
I literally was just like, with it being part of the culture, it
stopped with you stopping DJing.
No, not quite. It was coming to the point where I stopped doing it because I felt like I was doing it for the wrong reasons. Like I was going to raves for the wrong reasons. I was DJing for the wrong reasons. Okay. I really was there for the music. Like I loved the music. I loved meeting people from all over the place. I loved the interaction with people. I loved the lights. I loved dancing. I love electronic music. And I was like, can I be that one DJ that doesn't use drugs? Because all the DJs use drugs. All the DJs use drugs. And I'm like, can I just be that one DJ that doesn't use drugs? Do I have to be part of this? You're not a DJ unless you use drugs. And that's all I wanted to do. I was like, you know what? Like, I think I'm just going to stop doing it. So, I stopped.
From the outside in, Melissa, looking from the outside in, your mind and your body, you got really lucky that you were able to make that decision and not have it affect you.
Exactly.
Extremely bad. You got really fucking lucky.
I did. And I just
knowing how substances can take over a body and a mind, the fact that you were able to just stop. I mean, there's probably addicts out there that are like, well, fuck you, I wish I could have done that. I wish I can just stop.
Right.
You
and it was like when I smoked.
Really fucking lucky.
It's the same thing as like when I smoked, you know, it was, I chain smoked. I mean, I could smoke a pack of cigarettes in 4 or 5 hours, you know, and I did that for years and years and years. Like I said, I started smoking when I was in my teens. For years and years and years. And then, you know, one day I was just like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm done smoking. And I threw a pack of cigarettes away, and that was it. I stopped smoking. Now, I still had the nicotine.
Yeah, nicotine withdrawals, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So then I started chewing tobacco. Yes. Everybody's like, oh, you're a girl, you chew tobacco. Yes, and I can still smack the can because, I mean, yeah. I was like, okay, I'm just going to use chewing tobacco. At least my lungs are okay. Maybe my face will fall off. I don't care. You know, like, you know, when I went up north, you know, the first thing I said to all the guys that I met as soon as I got out there, I was like, hey, my name is Mel. One of them was packing a can. I said, oh shit, I didn't know you could bring tobacco. I said, can I get a pinch? And the guy looked at me and he was like, what? I was like, yeah. I was like, hey, he said, is that a female pinching? He said, do all girls in Kentucky use tobacco? I said, no. I said, but I know a few. Okay. So he passes it to me. Mm-hmm. And I get in his grizzly. I call it the welfare bear. Gives me the welfare.
Yep. That's because that's the can you go for when you only got a few bucks on you.
That and Kodiak, yeah. So the welfare bear. He hands it to me, and I open it up, and you know, it's pouches. And I said, pouches?
Why the hell are you packing pouches for?
Yeah, I said, what the fuck is this? And he's like, what? You said you need some. I was like, I don't use it. I was like, you got long cut or something? And he's like, no. And then one other guy has Copenhagen straight. And I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll use it anyway. I was like, pouches is like eating pussy through panties. And I passed it back to him, and he was like, oh my God. They're all dying laughing. So, you know, I mean, I quit smoking cold turkey. But then I was like, I had that nicotine withdrawal. I was like, oh, fuck me, you know. And a buddy of mine was just like, here, chew some tobacco. So then I learned how to do that. And I did, you know, do that when I go hunting mostly. But I don't do it at home, you know. When I go hunting or, you know, if I'm at work or something, I do it. But don't do it at home. Hunting, it just passes time. And that's like the guys that I work with. Not very many smoke. You know, most of them chew tobacco. And it's just passes fucking time, you know.
Yeah, hunting does pass time. I'm going to stop you a little bit. Okay. And I hope you don't take any offense to this. Nope. But I can tell you're either it's a little bit of anxiousness or you don't know really where to go with your story. And it's something I'm noticing. Okay. As you're telling your story, you're jumping around a lot.
That's my ADD for you.
Right. But I also think it's something else. I think it's you wanting to tell every little bit of that story, right? You want everybody to know all the details. And yes, absolutely. When you share your story, you want people to know the details because the devil's in the details, right? The devil is in the details on how you decided to do something, why you decided to do something. What I think is going on when I'm hearing your story is please don't take offense.
You're good, dude.
You're trying to find the right way to tell your story.
Maybe it could be.
You're explaining. Look, we went through your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty traumatic in that you had an abusive father, you had an alcoholic father. He died young. Traumatic in the fact that you were in a lifestyle that put you in jail.
Mm-hmm.
You got the tough love from your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was listening to your story, and then you're telling your story like, oh, I got out, I got my EMT and everything. I'm like, oh, okay, this is where she turns around. She's about to tell us this point where she starts turning around, making her life better. Nope. Didn't start turning around. As a matter of fact, it didn't change really much at all.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, yeah, sure, maybe she stopped stealing and doing the things when she was younger, but she just moved that abusive self-behavior, the self-abusive behavior to another aspect of her life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's what happened.
You are addicted, or were addicted, to detrimental behavior.
Yep.
And there's gonna be a point somewhere here in this story where you just finally come to the realization, look, what I'm doing is fucked off.
Mm-hmm.
And everything, I'm telling you, everything that I've been doing, everything, fuck, I was still using drugs as a paramedic. I was still using drugs while I was trying to find work. I was still in this lifestyle. So yeah, sure, maybe you weren't stealing anymore. Maybe you weren't going to jail anymore. But you were still doing things that could have put you there.
Self-harm, yeah.
Self-harmful things that, what I think it was is you were addicted to the possibility. You were addicted to getting away with. We don't really think about that as being addiction very often, right? We don't.
I was hiding.
That. Yeah.
I was hiding. I was hiding everything that was going on in my mind because I felt, for a majority of my time, I felt like a failure, and I felt like I didn't have anybody that I could trust. Right.
But when you listen to your story, you have points where you don't feel like a failure. You have points in your story. You have points in your story where, yeah, I was that badass fucking DJ. I was that DJ that the promoter was fucking taking me around and giving me free shit. And I was the life of the fucking party. Those are success stories. How many DJs? But how many DJs out there would kill for the experiences you would have?
There's quite a few.
Right. So those are success stories. Whether you want to believe it or not, somebody else, that's a huge success story.
It is.
You got to do what they've been trying to do or working up to try to do. You've had success stories in your life. You had a success story coming out of prison. You got your life straight a little bit. You got your paramedic, right? You got this little bit of success. And what I'm seeing when I'm hearing your stories, as you start getting this little bit of success and you start getting your life a little bit in order, that part of you that's like, no, I need something fucked up. I need something I need that adrenaline rush to where I know it's wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. You got caught in that cycle. That was your addiction. It wasn't drugs.
No,
it wasn't drugs. It wasn't, and I don't know where this addiction came from, but your addiction, from what I'm hearing, and just outside looking in, and I could be totally wrong, but your addiction is knowing that what you're doing is wrong, but you're getting away with it. That's your addiction.
It could have been, yeah. It could have been.
Did you ever get arrested when you went DJing and everything else?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get arrested for drugs?
Mm-hmm.
What was the first thing you did when the job questioned you on your drug use and drug selling? You quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of fighting it and clearing your name, you quit.
Yeah. I quit, and then after that, I was like, I need something better. Like, I wasn't even happy in my job. Like, I felt like,
but why weren't you happy? You were happy going DJing and using drugs.
I was
getting away with doing the wrong, but you go to a job that everything's right. You're doing the right thing. You're working the hours you need to work. You're doing the job correctly. That's no fun. That's not satisfying your addiction of getting away with something bad.
Yeah, I think it was more like I had the people that I was with. So I have trust issues, period. I've always had trust issues. They're better. They're obviously better now, but I've had trust issues. And, when that all happened, I was like, who the fuck is out to get me? Why are they out to get me? Like, I'm really not that bad of a fucking person. why are people looking at me like I am? Are they jealous that I'm doing things and they're not, and like, what's the deal with it? And I hated being where I was at. And I mean, I hated being where I was at anyway, because
Transport service sucks, period.
yeah, like I've always been, even when I first got into EMS, the reason why I did is because I wanted to help people. And like, I believe in giving 110% for somebody. And like I was taught to begin with, treat your patients as you as your own family members, even if they are pieces of shit. Even if they did do the heroin, and this is the fourth time that you've, given them an Narcan and their kids have watched the whole time, just, be a little more empathetic. You're not going what they're going through, whatever the case may be. And I didn't see that when I was there, and it made me upset. So it was I was there.
I'm going to challenge that you didn't see it because you were still doing the DJ lifestyle while you were doing it. You even admitted earlier, maybe you didn't show up to work drunk, but you definitely showed up hungover. How is that giving 100% to somebody if you're showing up hungover?
That's true. I mean, I did show up quite a bit hungover, and I mean, a lot of us did, but.
Or you'd show up to work after a weekend DJing, after drug use. How is that giving 100% of yourself?
I don't know. I felt like
you felt like you were.
I felt like I was. I mean, I was attentive to my patients, but you
were still battling the shit in your head.
It was, and it was it felt like it was just for profit. It didn't matter what you did. It wasn't about taking care of your patients. It was about making sure that your fucking medical billing was precise, because they couldn't get paid if it wasn't. Like, it wasn't about the fact that, Granny really just had been sick for the last couple of weeks and needed a fucking transport because she's just a little weak. It's like, well, why is she weak? Well, why is she weak? You need to put in there why can't we just transport her? She's fucking 90 years old. And
yeah, but that falls on you. You can treat the patient with 110% respect and care.
Yeah.
You can still do what you want to do when it comes to patient care and showing that you give a shit.
It just, when you get back and it's like, it doesn't even matter. Like, and that's how I felt all the time. It's like, it doesn't matter how much.
So you needed validation.
I needed validation. Yep.
You needed validation that what you were doing meant more than just billing. Yep.
And, at the time I hadn't worked but, the first fire department that I was at was, full-time EMS, and it was like a volunteer / paid on call, right? They're paid now. They're paid career now. So I never worked for a full-time EMS / fire. I wanted to do both. And all I could get in was EMS. And I was like, man, I didn't feel like I was at my 100% potential. That I needed a change. Like, I needed somewhere, like I said, when I got into it, I needed somewhere where I could have a brand new family, start over again, feel like I was, a productive member of society, try to get out of my old habits with good, positive people beside my side. Because all my friends that I had at the time, they say that they're your friends, but they're not. And, when, as my therapist likes to say, everything that I did in my life was isolating. I was trying to isolate from what was really going on inside my head by staying busy.
That makes sense. And it's, I want to bring up the whole friends thing. Is they say we're your friends, and sometimes we think friends, they're going to agree with you no matter what, right? So
no.
We confuse enablers as friends.
Right.
We confuse people that will just back us up and give us the things, no matter if it's good or bad. They're just always going to back us up. Well, those are enablers. They're not necessarily friends.
No, your friends are going to uplift.
Exactly. Your mother.
Like what my mother did. My mother, exactly. Like what she did, and I learned that, over the years when things started, kicking in and my mother became closer and closer and closer and such, I learned that. I learned that's like, my mother was my best friend. So then I'm like, okay, I need to find people that are more kind of like my mother, that are like there and they're very supportive and, they'll help you guide the way. because I didn't feel like I could do this all on my own. Like I honestly felt like I needed to become friends with people that could be supportive and still tell me that I'm being a bitch, but that they love me anyway. But
that you're doing wrong. Hey,
I'd snap out of this shit, right?
You're fucking up.
So I needed that. I needed that in my life, and when you work in EMS, and this is the God's honest truth, because I mean, from New England down, I've worked. I can't even tell you how many EMS services, and I've volunteered fire on the side before I got on a paid department. It is the quickest to backstab your coworkers. It is the quickest to backstab your coworkers. And then, when I got into the fire service, now, mind you, it still happens sometimes in the fire service, but it was a different thing. And the reason why it is because you'd start hearing stories. Like when I got on the department that I'm on now, I wasn't the only person there that was going to parties and drinking and drugging.
You weren't the only one that had a history.
Yeah, there was another guy that was there, and he was a paramedic too. And he was probably deeper in the shit than I was. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm not the only person in the world. Like, again,
your story is unique to you, but it's not all that unique in the grand scheme of things.
No, and I was just like, holy shit, like, I'm not the only person. And truly, it seemed like as long as it took me to mature out of that, I was done. Like I don't even, like I have bourbon. I have a shit ton of bourbon, and I sip bourbon from time to time, but I don't get drunk anymore. Like I can't drink myself silly anymore. I have not drank and got drunk in probably 3 or 4 years,
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be
3 to 4 years. 3 or 4 years. So you're 35, 34, 35 years old. You're about to be 39. This is a perfect segue for me. This is the perfect segue. When did you start realizing I need to start getting better for myself?
Everybody I knew that I was working with at the time, that was like all we did, is like my neighbors and stuff would drink all the time. And for some reason, everything started clicking with the behaviors that I was seeing. So we'll talk about triggers. I didn't know what triggers were. I didn't know what my triggers were. I still have triggers that I haven't figured out yet, and that's why I do EMDR. I started picking up that I was acting kind of different and feeling different, having different emotions, and starting to feel angry and all sorts of stuff when I would be drinking.
You became self-aware.
I did become self-aware.
What I'm asking is maybe you're heading there, but I kind of just want to get straight to there. Look, Mose, you, like I said, you took us through a tumultuous childhood. You took us through a tumultuous relationship with your father. You took us through a tumultuous a time of drug use and trying to figure out exactly what it is you're looking for in life, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm making my observations from the outside in. Obviously, they could or could not be. This is outside looking in, right? Mm-hmm. But at some point, something smacked you in the face. Either you hit rock bottom, or it was just all of a sudden you woke up and you realized, holy fuck, there's something. You became self-aware at some point. I guess what I'm asking is, what was it that made you become self-aware that what I am doing in my life right now is not working?
Yeah.
What was that for you?
It was, I was doing too many things that was immature and self-harm.
Yeah, but what got you to that realization? That's what I'm asking for. Like, was it you got in trouble? Was it somebody said, hey, look, Melissa?
Two things. One was, they were all pretty simultaneously in the same year. One was coworkers and I went out drinking. And I got a bottle of Patron and I drank the whole bottle of Patron. I thought I was going to have a ride home. I lived about 6 hours. Oh gosh, six miles away from where we were drinking. It got late in the night, and I could not drive,
Right.
and no one could take me home. So I was being selfish, and I was like, I don't need to call a cab. It's only 6 hours.
6 miles.
Or 6 miles, yeah. So I got in my own vehicle, and I started driving.
Mm-hmm.
And halfway through driving, I said to myself, I should not be on the road. And never once in my life have I ever said I shouldn't be on the road. I didn't get caught. I did make it home, but it was probably one of the scariest experiences that I had, because I was for sure, so I thought, going to wreck. And so I was being hyper aware, and I would constantly look down at my speedometer and constantly look at the road, speedometer road. You know that our visual perception is delayed anyway when you're drinking. And I'm like, I'm going to end up crashing between looking at this just to stay in the lines and make sure I'm doing the speed limit. And I get home, and I made it as far as the bathroom, and then I woke up the next morning. So it could have very well been to the point. And like I said, I was selfish because, when I did wake up and I did think about that, I was like, I could have blacked out in the car, and I could have killed somebody, and I could have been the people that I go to on this job. I could have been that person, and that is not what I want to be. And I do not want to hurt other people. That is not my goal. My goal is to fix other people, to help other people, to be a positive role model for other people. And this is not it. That was an awakening as far as the driving goes. But then it was, well, I can still drink at home. I can still drink somewhere and spend the night. And that year, my neighbors, we live out in the country. We have farmland and stuff. We have a big party several times a year. And I started catching on. That's where I was talking about triggers. I started catching on to things, and they were like, Mel, and I'd be getting angry, and my attitude would change. And it was because I was seeing my father in them. There were things that I was seeing about my father in them. And I was like, if this is the way they are when they're drunk, am I the same way?
So
am I acting the same way?
So it wasn't in them.
It wasn't in them.
No, it wasn't. You were seeing your father in you.
Yeah. And that's why I was like, is that because I can't see me, and I think that I'm this, and I mean, it could be, I don't know. I've never had anybody tell me. I had to do this all on my own. But I always thought that I was a happy person when I was drunk, but maybe the same things that I'm seeing, I'm doing, and I don't see it because, well, it's me. And I didn't like it. And so I'd stop drinking for the night. We have a little brewery here in town. I go there all the time. They have like little local bands and local singers. Go there, have a few drinks, and I'll start picking it out. And there's that trigger again. And I'm like, that motherfucker, like, why is he fucking acting like that? Like, what the fuck? And then I start getting angry. I'm like, what the fuck? Why are they acting like that? Why are they talking to their girlfriend like that? And then I'm like, I just don't like being around. I don't like being around establishments hardly ever anymore. A bar, I definitely don't. I do not go to the bar. Bars are gone. I used to love going to bars. I don't go to bars. I don't do it.
Do you think that we hear about self projection, right? And
yeah,
you've done a lot of mental health research, and you're going through a lot of your process on figuring out what's going on and what bothers you, what are your triggers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times, there's a saying that when we're bothered by something, or when we see something happening, or somebody's treating us a certain way, and we perceive it to be something, we perceive it to be, it means this, that they're doing this. It means that they're doing this, right? We don't really know. That's what we're perceiving it to be. We're giving it our own meaning.
Right.
You self-project what's in you onto what you're seeing.
Yeah.
It's that whole, you see somebody across the street, you can't hear them, but you see them waving their arms, right? Well, if you don't know why they're waving their arms, the projection that you give is on you, right? You project what you feel or what you think on what you're seeing. Do you think it's possible that we were seeing these things wasn't necessarily what they were doing, but your own self-projection on what you've been through or what you think maybe that's me.
Yeah.
And so you get angry. You get angry at yourself.
Yeah, I do. And that's, I had brought that up to my therapist, because, my last partner, anytime they were drinking, again, it was once you get to that point where you're either buzzed or relatively intoxicated, it's automatic. Like, I'm automatically angry and like don't want to be around them. Mm-hmm. And years and years ago, I loved being around those kinds of people. I thought it was great, but it's like I'm seeing something, and I mentioned that to my therapist, and she's like, "These are things that you're seeing now because it's relevant to things that have happened in your life,
how you acted, things that have happened to you, stuff like that, right?"
And I'm like, when I was a kid, like, you talk about how having a significant, significant trauma in childhood. I didn't think any of that because when my father died when I was 15, it was like a fucking field day for me. I was like, yay, I've been blessed. No more of the fucking asshole. Like, yay. Like, I never thought it bothered me because it was like there was a sense of relief when he was gone. It was like I was safe. It was like everything's cool. Like, it's all over. But, as I was described, those behaviors and those feelings and those exposures as a child, regardless of whether you think they bothered you or not, your brain was developing then, and it's in there, even if you don't think it is. And I'm just like, well, what the fuck, dude? Like, I had no idea, and none of this shed light until after I'd been doing this job for several years. I had a couple really bad runs, didn't think nothing of it. I'm just like, oh, this is normal. But then you start thinking about it more, like the one run, you start thinking about it more, and then you're like, why am I thinking about it all the time? And then you start having nightmares about it. And then you're like, why am I having nightmares about this? This happened last year. And then now you're driving down the street and you're freaking the fuck out because you think somebody's in front of your vehicle and you're going to hit him and kill him. And there's nobody there and it's just a fucking shadow. And then shit gets worse and then other things start popping up and then your mind is boggled and then all day, all you're doing is, I worked my life away. I literally worked my life away.
I like where you're going with this. And I know I keep interrupting. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I do this a lot with my guests because I'm hearing your process and I'm hearing it's like as you're telling the story, it's like you're realizing it all over again. Yeah. And it's amazing to hear and it's amazing to see because it's like you're having these epiphanies all over again. You've had them before, obviously, through therapy and through your process of getting better, through your book and everything else. You're having these epiphanies, but then as you're telling your story, you're hearing you have those epiphanies again. You're hearing yourself like, holy shit, this is, and we're getting into now, not only now are you adding, did you have all this life trauma? Now the work trauma is starting to play an effect, right? And I don't think people really realize or they forget that when they see firefighters, EMTs, first responders in general, military personnel, that when they see that, they're like, oh, she's an EMT, she's a firefighter. She's a cop, he's a cop, they're military. That's what they are, right? They forget that when they're not deployed, when they're not at work, they're human beings. Right. They are people that have life stresses, that have had a shitty childhood, that have had a bad history, that have had things happen to them. They forget about all that human aspect of the person that's in the job. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing you tell your story and you're going through, and now the work-life stresses are now starting to play a toll on top of the life stresses that you are still working through. You are still trying to fucking figure out. And now you have, oh my God, here's this other fucking stress. What the fuck is going on? Right? You're going through therapy now. Mm-hmm. And you still do EMDR. And what people don't know what EMDR is a cognitive behavioral therapy where they replicate REM, because studies show that a lot of when your brain develops or when your brain wires itself happens during REM movement. So when you're in deep sleep, that's when your brain can comprehend what happened through the day. That's why you dream about things that have happened to you, because it's your brain trying to process the things that you weren't able to process at that time. And so they try to replicate that, and they want you to go through those experiences that had an effect on you. They want you to bring up those bad things so you can process them safely, right? That's what EMDR is. You're going through this process. You're realizing now that the work stress is adding on to this life stress that you're still trying to work through. What in God's name possessed you to start talking about it openly?
Oh man. So apparently I had some incidences that had happened that scared me. I was described as it being a dissociative moment. I started getting really angry and agitated and anxious over the tiniest of things. Tiny things. Toothbrush. This all started to shed light, like true light, that I knew something was wrong over a fucking toothbrush. I just got back from camping or going somewhere. They traveled somewhere. I couldn't quite figure out which toothbrush was mine, which toothbrush wasn't. So I was like, well, I think this one was mine. Maybe I should put a mark on it. So I said something about, do you know which toothbrush this? And this is just what I remember so far, because there was a point in here where I lost the ability to comprehend anything that was going around me, and memory was gone. Can you tell me which toothbrush is yours and which one is mine? Well, the toothbrush that's in your hand is yours, Mel. Well, I know that, but I have two toothbrushes in my hand, and I think this one is mine, but I'm not sure. Do you remember which toothbrush yours looks like? And somewhere in there, I completely lost it. Don't remember anything, but it started with a toothbrush. And the next thing I remembered is I was in the master bedroom bath with a gun in my hand, and my partner grabbing me and screaming at me. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And, when I was like, why the fuck do I have this gun in my hand? Apparently, between the time that I got in an argument about the toothbrush to the time the gun was in my hand, I had went into the bedroom and tried to take the king size mattress off the bed frame, saying I was going to put it on my vehicle and go sleep somewhere. And there was some other things that had happened. And then I went into the other spare bedroom and grabbed one of my guns and went into the bathroom with, I'm assuming it was an attempt to shoot myself. Mm-hmm. So, when I came, that came to light, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Of course, I broke down and I'm freaking the fuck out. Like, what the hell? I don't know what's going on, And, I was like, I will go and get some fucking help. Before that, I had these feelings and I had the dreams and I had insomnia. I couldn't sleep and everything else. And my partner,
was she your girlfriend at the time? Was she your wife?
Oh, my girlfriend at the time. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I should. I'm used to saying partner, and then I
Right, yeah,
usually.
look, there ain't no
Oh, I don't give a damn.
politically correct here. Yeah, there ain't no she's your fucking
And then I
girlfriend.
usually have to.
She's your significant other. Period.
She was my girlfriend at the time. She's who I refer to, in the book. But my partner at work. See, I always have to determine my partner at home, my partner at work. So my partner at work, I spend a majority of time on the ambulance. My partner at work had noticed some things. I think the guys on the rescue unit, which I'm stationed out of the special operations unit, I think they were trying to, they might have caught some wind that maybe there might be something wrong with me, but didn't quite want to intervene. I guess maybe they were like, maybe she's just acting weird this week or whatever. My partner on the ambulance, he said, Mel, are you okay? And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, I mean, I've noticed that, you've been acting just a little strange lately, and you just seem a little off, and mind you, side note, my partner on the ambulance, he works at a completely different fire department now, but we have grown close over the last couple of years because he has also experienced some shit as well. So we were able to bond on the same level. But I said, man, I said, I'm just having a hard time fucking sleeping. Like I said, I just don't feel quite right. I said, and every time we drive at night, and it takes me a minute to realize that it's just a shadow. I said, but when I'm like, oh shit, and then I'm like, oh, never mind. He's like, yeah. And I was like, that's because I think that there's someone that's walking out in front of the rig, and that we're gonna hit him. And we can go into the reason why I have that feeling. I still do have that startle reaction every now and then. It's not as bad, but so when that incident happened later on that week at home, I said I knew between what was going on while I was at work. I knew the thoughts that I was having in my head because I was considering and thinking about suicide. I had been considering and thinking suicide long before that event, but it would come and go. There would just be days where something didn't make sense, and I couldn't get all these pictures out of my head. My mind would be racing with all sorts of shit.
Right.
And I just wanted to slow it down. I just want to slow down my mind. It would almost be like when you watch a film, and in the film, the actor's going through flashbacks of 18,000 different things, and you see the quick flash of the images. That's what would be going through my head.
So here's the funny thing, right? You just said something that I want to talk about real quick. You said you wanted to slow it down, right? You didn't say you wanted it to stop. You didn't say that you wanted it to dissolve in. You said you wanted to slow it down. But would you have ever gotten the chance to slow it down had you followed through with those ideations?
Nope.
So you would have never really gotten what you were searching for.
Nope.
You would have never gotten that happiness. You would have never gotten that peace. You would have never gotten anything. So anybody that's thinking, well, suicide is going to give me peace. Suicide's going to get me. No. You will never get what you were truly searching for going that route. No. I heard this on a podcast called The Hilarious World of Depression. It's a great podcast. And it was an episode I was listening to, and the host said, did you ever consider that had you followed through with those ideations, that you would never get what you were actually searching for? That the depression was actually going with you. It won. You didn't get what you truly wanted. Right. When I heard that, I was just like, holy fuck.
Right.
I want these thoughts to stop, but I don't want to die. But I'm thinking dying is going to get these thoughts to stop. Well, I'm not really getting what I'm wanting. I'm not getting the peace that I'm really searching for.
Right. That's right. Like I never wanted to die. I really didn't want to die. And when I have panic attacks, it does run through my mind when I have a panic attack, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is normal. It's okay to have. People think suicidal ideations are just these taboo ideas. No, they're not. They're not taboo ideas. They're real things that happen to us, right? We think that this is a way out. And if we don't keep that in check, yes, the depression can take over. Look, what did they say? Like what? 90%, 9 out of every 10 people that have attempted suicide, right? Right after they jump or right after they heard the click of the gun, they
regret it
instantaneously are like, oh fuck, I didn't really want this, right? They didn't really want it. Why? Because what they're truly searching for is not for it to stop. They're searching for peace. They're searching for understanding. They just want to be calm. They want to be okay. You'll never get that. You'll never get it.
You won't.
The only way to get it is to work through it. And I wanted to stop you when you said that. I just wanted to slow down because it's like, that's it. That's it right there. You came to the realization and you allowed the ideations to happen. Thank God your girlfriend was there at the time to pull you out of it.
Yeah, that's what I say.
But I have a very similar story to yours. You almost black out. It's like that depressed mind takes over, right? Your depressed mind, those thoughts, the ideas, the just end it, just you're worthless, just get rid of it, just make it stop, whatever. That starts taking over, that goes in your mind. And then your logical brain's over here going, what the fuck are you doing, dumbass? No, this is a bad idea. Don't do this. Your biology is like, this is not conducive to living. Stop. Like
angel, devil.
Yeah, right? And the devil is just so big, and the angel's like, stop, dumbass.
Yeah.
Stop. This isn't right. This is not how you get it. And the devil's over here like, hey, you wanted to stop. This is going to be the one way to make it stop. And you're like, but I don't really want it to stop. I just want it to go away. Right. It's so hard to explain to people that don't battle with those ideations all the time, and that depressed mind all the time. That yeah, it's okay to have those ideations. It's okay to feel shitty about yourself. We say it all the time. It's okay to not be okay. It's just not okay to stay there. You have to be able to realize that other part that's telling you, hey, this is a bad idea, that's the one you need to be listening to. That's the one that you need to get louder.
That's right.
And I love hearing your story because you're hearing this. As you're telling your story, I'm hearing your brain fight itself. It's almost like when it happened to me, I was so scared to the idea that, am I fucking schizophrenic?
That's what I thought.
Am I schizophrenic? Am I a dissociative personality disorder? Like, what the fuck is going on with me right now? Why am I having two voices in my head fucking fighting?
Yeah.
And then once the logical brain takes over, you just feel like little shit about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so now the logical brain took over, but now here's that depressive brain.
Yep.
Again. Here you go. It's building up. Like, how could you have been so stupid? How could you have been so stupid, you dumbass? You're a fucking retard. Now here comes those voices again. And then you were able to suppress it, but you weren't able to take it away.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you, when you took us through your two experiences, you have your coworkers that are noticing a change in you. You had this pretty bad experience with your significant other. And now you're like, I need to get help. Through your process of getting help, there was at some point, this.
Yeah. That started.
Living Through the Darkness, your book. At some point, you decided, I need to be loud about this.
Yeah.
And you were being loud about this for you first.
Mm-hmm.
It is a benefit that it's helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
But you did this for you first. No matter, I don't care if you say, like, I'm not going to believe you said, well, I just want to tell my story to help somebody else. Bullshit.
No.
Your primary reason for doing this is because it helped you.
Yeah. And it also helps me remember, too, because my memory
Right.
sucks.
Well, not only that, like, your primary reason for doing this is you were speaking out loud. You're starting to have the conversation because the more you talk about it, the more you put it out there, it's easier to talk about. It's easier. It becomes easier.
Yeah.
The taboo things that you held inside for so long that were so hard to talk about become easier when more people know where your head's at.
Oh, yeah. That's
when
true.
you started the conversation. My question's going to, when did this realization come to you? When did this book, Living Through the Darkness by Melissa Parker, when did this book become the realization that this is something that's going to help you? This is part of your therapy right here, Melissa. I read it. I read it. I read this process right here. This process, this book, you telling your story is part of your therapy. You talking about this book and what's inside of it, you being on this podcast, you being loud about it and not giving a shit who hears it, knowing that you went through dark times, is part of your therapy.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. It's just like addiction. Depression, you have to continue working through. PTSD, you have to continue working through. You said it before earlier too. There are some triggers that you're not aware of. And then when they do pop up, now though, you have the tools to work through them instead of letting them take over. When did this become the idea? When did this become this is what's going to help me?
That was actually about 2 weeks before I left out of the inpatient. So
you did go to inpatient?
I did go to inpatient. For 40 days. And I started that. I mean, I could probably research somewhere in my paperwork and find out the exact day I started writing it. But
I didn't need it exactly. I'm looking more for the experience. What was the experience, or who was, like, for me, right? You've seen my lives. You've seen a couple of my lives where I'm bawling my eyes out, where I'm having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen times where I'm talking about the shit that's going through my head.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen times where I'm acting goofy and dancing around, being a retard.
Yep.
I'm using the term as generic.
I say the same thing.
Yeah, I don't mean it as a detriment to anybody. I understand that I get it. But for me, it was my therapist telling me, yes, you need to keep talking about it. Be loud about it. The more you talk about it, the easier it is going to be for you to work through it. Instead of being so uncomfortable bringing it up, now you're making it to where it's not uncomfortable because you're always talking about it. You're always there.
So I had people in the inpatient that, when you do individual therapy and you do groups therapy and all sorts of stuff. In my group therapy sessions, it was brought up, you should write a book sometime about it. And I was like, I thought about that years ago. I thought about writing a book about my life and how, and this was before I was ever diagnosed with anything, and before I ever realized that I had something going on in my little sesame seed up here, about someone taking all the bad shit of their life and kind of progressing through the good shit, changing it all around, doing a 180 basically.
Turning something bad into something good.
Yeah. And then, of course, I turn something bad into good and then I get all this stuff. But I said, years ago, I thought about, making a motivational book about, people, deserve a second chance and they can do better in life. They just have to experience the bad things. And I don't have regrets. I learned from every mistake that I've made. And that's basically what it is. I've learned from every mistake that I've made. But now it was, no, you should write about that. And you should write about everything else that you've gone through from your childhood. Because like I said, I didn't know my childhood played into any of it until I went and was an inpatient. And they did something called a...
What drove you to inpatient real quick? What drove you to inpatient? How did you go? Was this shortly after your ideation or very close attempt?
Yep, it was, that event happened on a Saturday and I was gone that Monday.
Okay, so it was that event that stemmed you going to an inpatient facility.
That was the wake up call that said, and I was afraid to do it at first I didn't know how to go about doing it. I knew I needed to. I had researched everywhere and everything to try to find a facility that wasn't like we have some here in Kentucky, and they're just a joke because I've taken patients to and from them. I searched specifically for facilities for first responders. That way I knew I was dealing with therapists that were familiar with what we have. And there's many, many different ones, but I knew I needed something. I needed something more than just 5 days. I knew I needed something more than 5 days. And then I ended up, finding a facility, and my union paid for me to fly. And I was, they don't tell you a time that you're going to be admitted. You have a program. They diagnose you. You go through all this stuff. At the beginning, it takes about 3 to 5 days or so for them to diagnose you with what they think that you have going on. And then they write out a treatment plan for you. And you could be going through this treatment plan for 30 days. You could be going through it for 200 days. It's all dependent on what you need done and how well you're processing.
Well, I think it all depends on how willing you are.
Willing. Absolutely willing too.
I think that's probably the strongest one.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to be open.
You do.
You have to break down your own barriers against yourself.
Yep.
To be receptive to what is being taught to you and what is being told to you. You have to be receptive to being told how you thought you should live your life is wrong.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It is hard. I saw people go in there and be there for a week or two and say, this is a bunch of fucking bullshit. I'm out. Like, I'm leaving. And I didn't have that mentality because this was all a very big eye opener for me. Just like you asked, start off with your childhood, tell me from when you were little, Melissa, to where you're now, Melissa. That was the same thing, but they wanted details. Like, they would be like, okay, when were you born? What is the first age that you had an event that you remembered? That you remembered, like you can list off the top of your head right now. This is where it gets interesting. And I said, I don't know, it was probably 7 or 8 years old, playing softball in the front yard. And they said, you can't tell me you can't remember anything from when you were 3 or up. And that's a problem. And I was like, oh, well, that's fucking great. So then I was like, okay, we're going to put that down. Cannot remember past or before age, whatever. And then it's like, tell me what your mom did. How long was she gone? Tell me what your dad did. What do you do? Blah, blah, blah. Do you have any siblings? What do they do? Blah, blah. What do they do now? Blah, 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 blah. Are they married or divorced? And then it was breaking down each and every person and all my activities, and they called it an influential background.
Mm-hmm.
And they determined that my trauma started in my youth. And I was like, what? And then when they would explain why, at first I was like, what? Like I said before, I didn't give a fuck. When Dad died, I was like, yay, I'm free. But all those behaviors were already learned and all those adaptations, and I learned to become codependent because of that. So codependency is another thing that's a fucking pain in the ass. And then I was like, well, what the fuck?
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing with all that stuff. It's crazy, right? Because we don't want to admit to ourselves sometimes. We don't want to admit to ourselves that what we've always known is the actual problem. We want to tie it to specific one thing. When tragedy and when our minds are developing at such a young age, it's not always just one thing. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. I'll be honest. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is just one tragedy, and then from that tragedy, you self-destruct and you self-harm and you like with relationships, yourself, your process of thinking. Sometimes it is that. But sometimes it's your environment that shape your mind. And the thing is, what's really crazy is just a few years ago, we learned about this cool thing called neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Right? Just a few years. It's always been there. It's always been a thing. But we just finally proved it just a few years ago. And I forget the college. I'm going to need to research because I remember the college that actually brought it up. I want to say it starts with a P, like Pennsylvania or Philadelphia or something like that. It's a university. They do a lot of mental health research at. I don't remember. Don't quote me on the place. But they finally proved, it's always been there, but they finally proved that you, through cognitive behavioral therapy, through mental health medication,
Yep.
that you can rewire your brain. You can actually change who you thought you were.
Yep. Yep.
And I have to be careful in saying that, not change who you were,
Right.
change who you thought you were.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because who you really are is the person behind the mental health disease. That's who you really are.
Yep. And there's times where you catch that. You catch that sometimes. You're in that mode where you feel completely normal, and outsiders looking in are just like, wow, you're an amazing person and you're so friendly and so kind and all this stuff. And you've got your shit together, but then here comes the flood of bullshit. And then you're like, I don't see it. Like, I don't know why. I mean, I really appreciate that they said that, but what the fuck? I don't see it. Like, my mind is a clusterfuck right now.
Right. You don't see it because that's your norm.
Yeah. You've learned to live with it, and you've just you've dealt with it being part of the normal. And anything good outside of that is new to you, and you're uncomfortable.
You're uncomfortable because it's not your norm.
Right.
It's not the stress you know how to deal with. Right? Our brain does this really fucked up thing that if a small stress happens, right? Something small, your toothbrush thing, right?
Toothbrush.
Your brain, your brain does this weird fucking thing, right? Where it's so used to coping with high stress, right? High stress. It needs that chemical for high stress for you to actually kind of comprehend or work through it. Your brain gets so used to that it'll turn the small things into huge things. Your mind literally is trying to give itself a drug to cope with it the way it's always known how to cope with stress. Your mind literally fucks itself.
Yep.
And when you go to therapy and do all this, you are literally unfucking your mind.
Yep. You're working towards unfucking it.
Yes. You're working towards unfucking because it is a mental health disease. It's biological. It's so crazy that some people can't understand that. They're like, well, if you feel that way, you can just change the way you feel. No, I can't.
No, it's not.
No. My brain is actually producing more of the chemical that you think you can. Your brain doesn't produce as much of this chemical and or doesn't produce the chemical when it's not needed. My brain will produce the chemical when it's not needed and or give me way too much of that chemical. It's literally a biological thing. My brain has fucked itself. Mm-hmm. So mental health medication and cognitive behavioral therapy, which are tools, that you literally have to practice. And I say tools, it's not like a hammer and chisel, but it's things that you, it sounds dumb, but it is this, like, how those self-help books where you look in the mirror and you say, I'm going to be good today.
Yes, I'm going to have a good day today.
I'm going to have a good day today. I am worth it. I am phenomenal. I am going to get that promotion. Like the self-affirmations.
Yes.
As dumb as they sound, there's science behind it that says they fucking work.
Yep, there is.
So
David Goggins.
Oh my God, David Goggins. Do not get me started on David Goggins.
He did that. He put those stickers on his mirror every day that said, you can do this, you're going to push through, you're going to be fine, all this stuff.
Oh my God. Have you listened to his episode with Joe Rogan?
No, I listened to his.
Oh my God. No, you need to go listen to his episode with Joe Rogan. He's done 2 episodes. Listen to the first one.
I will.
Anyway.
I love David Goggins,
Yeah. So you went through your process at the mental health facility. You went through 40 days. People were saying, hey, you should write a book. When you got out, you're like, you know what? That's a good idea.
I actually started it while I was in there.
Did you hold anything back in here? There's a few points in this book where I'm like, there's something missing here.
Yes. That's one of the things that whenever I finish the audiobook, it's going to have more stuff. It's going to be like David Goggins' audiobook.
Okay, where you're going to give a little bit more of a backstory as to some of the stuff you talked about. Okay, good. Let me know when that comes out because, and if you need it, are you narrating it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I was gonna say, if you need to hire a narrator, I'm pretty good at reading. Like there's a few parts in here where I'm like, you're leaving something out. There's something more here.
And the reason why so when I went back through the book, I was like, man, I took out some stuff, and the reason why was because as I've read that book and reread it and reread it and reread it and reread it, and I try to put myself in the reader's perspective, and I'm like, oh, there's entirely too much of this shit in here. That's going to get boring. Let's delete this. And then, I've heard and you're not the only person that said it, is like, is there more to this part, or is there more to this part? Because I feel like there's more behind that story. And I'm like, yeah, there is, but I didn't want to bore you all with all the details.
Yeah. What's that saying? The devil's in the details?
Yes, the devil's in the details. Yes. So, I said,
we need to be exposed to the devil, Melissa. That devil should not be uncomfortable to expose.
That devil's got a lot of shit. I held out a lot of stuff in there. I held out the I joked around with the guys working. I say I was a whore for a little while. Like, I had a new girl every other day. Like, it was like I hadn't quit it all the time. I just didn't give a shit. I didn't care. And
but see, you're using jokes for your truth.
Yes, it is. And I was like, and I do joke around with the guys because, marriage, they always joke about their marriage and like, oh, married life sucks. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I said, I'm not married. That's why I got a different one every week, but, no, I don't do that no more. But, when I did, back many, many years ago, there's a lot of stuff that went on in life and stuff that I could have put in there. But like I said, some of it's not super relevant. I tried to put a lot of the relevant stuff in there. That way it all kind of made sense. And the goal is to explain to others based on the therapy that I received that it can start from your childhood and you might not realize it. So those that have never gone through therapy can read the book and be like, well, I never did think about it, but my dad was kind of a dick, or my mom was kind of a dick, or when I was a kid, but I didn't think that had anything to do with why I feel the way I do now. And it's like, yeah, it's because, you're exposed to that and your brain is trying to process all this stuff as a kid and learn, and it's growing and you don't think about it. And then you get to the job.
The human brain doesn't finish developing for males until the age of 26. For females, I think it stops at like the age of 22, 23. Like that's, yeah, so hey. But I mean, like, I'm in awe of you, Melissa. I'm in awe because here you are, another human being on this planet that suffers with mental health disease. Mm-hmm. And not only are you another human being that suffers with mental health disease, you're another human being that suffers with mental health disease that is a first responder.
Yeah.
That even with all this shit, still decided to dedicate her life to helping others in one way, shape, or form or fashion. With this book, you found another way to be a civil servant for your brothers and sisters. And anybody really that battles with mental health disease. Really, this book is for anybody that battles with mental health disease, but really specifically for our other civil service members, with our brothers and sisters in civil service, be it military or first responder. And I'm in awe of your process. I'm in awe of your story, right? We're talking about it, and we're being very nonchalant about it. We fucking joked about it a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're joking about it. I can't believe you just made a joke about your dad dying. I can't believe you just made Yeah, I can't believe you just made a joke and you're laughing at the fact that you were inpatient mental health treatment. And it's like, well, look, it's
best time of my life. That's the best time of my life.
It's part of life. We can either decide to be affected by it in a detrimental way, or we can use our failures and we can grow from them.
Do you know why? That I say that was the time of my life is because a lot of people, you were talking about stigma, right? I was the first person in my department to openly go and be admitted to a facility and come back and openly talk about it. And when I did, I said, look, guys, and it's benefited since I've been back. I said, I was up there with guys from some of the biggest departments you would have never thought. With guys that got 30 years on the fucking job in New York City, Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, fucking Hawaii. You had a guy from Hawaii. Like, Miami. I can't tell you how many Miami-Dade guys. Like, big ass fucking cities. Guys 20 and 30 years on the job, riding officer seats, riding battalions positions, you know, chief positions. And they're there. And, you know, you think back in the day, the old guys would be like, oh, you know, you stuck it in, right? One of the guys from New York said, I said, how did you guys deal with 9/11? Because he was there for 9/11. He was working that day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, how come there's not more of you guys here? And he said, you want to know why? He's like, because we all just get together and drink it away. A bunch of us just get together and we just drink it away, and it seems to be okay. He's like, but, you know, my wife was the one that said, look, you need to get some help, because that's all you're doing now is you're going out with your buddies and you're drinking all the time and you're not staying home. He's like, some people can go out and drink and go home and it's fine. He's like, but I was drinking all the time. You know, and these are big city guys, big events. And like I said, it doesn't matter. And then it doesn't matter whether it's big city or tiny town USA. There were guys from all over the place. And then you hear their stories, because everybody knows each other's story. And, you know, your instant thought is 9/11. I said,
how can my story compare to that, right? You start, yeah, we're going to get on this. I'm going to get my soapbox about this for about 5 minutes. Look,
go for it.
Look. Your tragedy is unique to you.
Right.
Do not measure it to somebody else's tragedy. You are then devaluing what that tragedy did to you. And when you devalue it, you will not readily and wanting go and work on it.
Right.
Your brain does not know the difference between stress. Your brain does not know the difference. Sure, there are levels of stress. Absolutely. We all have low-level stress. We have medium-level stress. We have high-level stress. Guys that went through 9/11, that's a high-level stress. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. That same chemical that gets released, no matter what level of stress, was released just the same for you on the stress that you dealt with.
Yep.
Your brain does not know the difference between that stress. So what was high-level stress for you could actually be equal to the high-level stress of those that went through 9/11. But in your brain, you want to tell yourself, in your head, you want to tell you, well, it's not that bad. No, your brain doesn't know the difference there, sweetheart. Buddy, dumbass.
Yeah. Yep.
Look, it doesn't matter. Your brain cannot comprehend the difference of stress. It will let out that chemical whenever it feels stressed, whether it's small or large. And if your brain went through a large stress, or what you perceive to be a large stress at that time, then that's what it is. Do not measure it to anybody else's stress. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to them.
And you know, we don't know that. We don't think that.
No, we don't. Why don't we think that? Because and I'm using this term as it's used, we're ignorant to the information.
We are. Yep.
We're too uncomfortable for actually going and learning what it is that's happening.
And that, you know, that's why, like now, like I said before, when I heard that, you know, he worked 9/11, my instant thought was, and this is early in, you know, first few days, was, oh fuck, like I don't even know if I want to talk about my story, because that fucking tops them all. I'm sorry. But then I share my story. The next guy shares their story, and the next guy shares their story. Next girl shares their story. And they might look at mine and be like, oh shit. And then I'll look at someone else's that wasn't 9/11, but then something less, quote unquote, what we would normally think would be less traumatic. And they're like, oh fuck. Like, okay. And then you learn this, what you just explained, that the same chemicals are released on no matter what stress it is, whether it was the fireman that responded to the Twin Towers or the paramedic that responded to the infant cardiac arrest.
It's the same chemicals.
Same chemicals, So, that was a sigh of relief, because neither myself or even the New York guys or the Miami guys or the small town USA up in Winoka, fucking somewhere up north in the middle of nowhere, Montana. We all had empathy for each other's incidences because we all still had the same feelings.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Feelings. That chemical that was released in your brain made you feel the same feelings. It didn't matter what it was that was the catalyst for those feelings. It was that you felt the same feelings. You felt the self-hate. You felt the depression. You felt the suicidal ideations. You felt the self-loathing. You felt the numbness. I say felt the numbness. People know what I'm talking about when I say feel the numbness. Like, it didn't matter what the catalyst was.
Nope. You still had feelings of worthlessness, helplessness.
It didn't matter.
Guilt. Didn't matter.
Fucking matter. Doesn't matter what the catalyst was.
Nope.
The point is, the human brain will fuck itself.
Oh yeah. Fuck you, brain.
If you do not allow yourself to really comprehend and process why it is it's doing it.
Yep.
And that's what therapy is for. That's what mental health medication is for. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna flip scripts here, Melissa, and I'm sorry, and I apologize because I know we can fucking talk forever. I'm gonna want you to come back on the show later on because I don't believe we hit on everything. And to be honest with you, I think we can hit on a hell of a lot more, right?
Oh, probably.
With your book and with your experiences and everything. If you can, in 5 minutes, just tell me, when did you realize that your process for your healing included speaking up and speaking out about what you went through?
Probably about a month or two after I got out. I took personal time after I got out to kind of be reintroduced to the world, I guess you could say. Thinking about what to expect when I get back to reality, go back to work, go back to the house and get back with life, right? And the more I got to thinking and the more I had learned while I was there, the more I realized that there are people that I'm already seeing the signs in that I never saw before, that I work with, especially, that are throwing up lots of red flags. And I've already lost, brothers and sisters to it. And before I knew how to help anybody, before I ever got help myself. And, I wanted to be able to be the one to let them know that, look, I'm here. If you feel like you can't talk to anybody else, know that you can talk to me because I've been there and I'm going to support you with it too. I think that's the thing is that people don't feel like they got the support. And, after doing that, after I got back, I had a little bit of discomfort because I was like, fuck, who's looking at me weird, when I come back. And then, I said to myself, I said, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I feel okay right now. Like, I feel better right now than I have in a long time. And I like this feeling better than I liked the feelings that I had before. And I don't give a fuck whether you like it or not. And as a result of that, and talking to the people that, I kind of was catching things on, and then, I was having people's wives that, knew that I went, because, word spread in the firehouse, call me saying, hey, my husband's acting strange. Do you think we could talk to him? And then I do, I'll talk. And we've actually had a couple people that have actually went and gone and sought help and are doing much better now too. So it's starting to become a little easier. Of course, you always have those few people that are just like, eh. And the way I look at that is if you've got the ones that are like, fuck them, they're fucking shit, they're fucking crazy or whatever. They probably really have the same things going on inside them, but they don't want to feel, they feel like they'd be weak if they came out. They have a superiority complex. And if we could just get past those people, I mean, I say it'll get there at least at one point, but that's how I look at it. Instead of looking at it the negative, like, oh man, I can't work overtime on their shift because they'll be like, oh, well, we're going to put you on the box because I'm afraid that you're going to freak the fuck out on a fire, or, whatever the case may be, instead of that, I'm just like, they're just feeling the same thing as me. They just haven't gotten to that point like I did, and like other people did.
What I'm hearing, Melissa, is you came to the point where we should all get to, is that you are 100% okay with who you are,
Yeah,
where you're at. And I preach it. I preach it all the time. Once you're okay with who you are and where you're at in life, good or bad, you are who you are. Whether you're working on yourself or not, you need to be okay with it. Yeah. And what I'm hearing from you is that you became okay with it. You finally accepted who you are.
And there's good days and there's bad days.
But the thing is, those good and bad days you're okay with.
Yeah.
You're okay with them happening. You don't like that they happen.
No. Who does? We hate it. We wish we could just end it.
Right. You don't like that it happens, but you became okay with yourself knowing that it can happen, and when it does, it's just a part of who you are in the process that you have to go through. You became okay with not being okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what I'm doing.
I have a lieutenant that's my current lieutenant. I just switched shifts. He's an Iraq veteran. He was attached to a Marine recon unit as a Navy corpsman. So, he was in the shit. And, I had to call out of work for the first 12 about a week ago because I had a panic attack and I had a very rough night. And when I came in, he says, "You doing all right? You feeling any better?" I said, "Yeah," but he didn't know why I called in. He thought I was sick. I said, "No." I said, I said I had a panic attack yesterday. Things got really bad. I wasn't sure I was going to make it in today. I was sore because when I have panic attacks, they're very long and very violent. And I was extremely, extremely sore. I didn't think that I was going to be able to move. And he said, "I understand." He said, "I just want to make sure you're doing okay." And so he knows. And you know how comfortable it is, how good of a feeling. My lieutenant before that was the same way. They supported me when I went to inpatient. But you know how good of a feeling it is to know that when you come in, like your crews can pick up when you're not feeling quite right, if something's going on. And they're like, "You okay?"
But they can do that because you decided to speak up.
It is.
You decided to have a conversation.
And I don't get treated any differently. I still do the same job that I did before. I still get assigned to the same roles whenever, tasks need to be delegated. I'm still available. And I'm not treated any differently because of it. Just like neither are the other guys that have gone and got help. And unfortunately, it's not the same for every department in the country because I've talked to guys.
No,
they don't give a fuck. They run them out of the department. Like I knew one that got run out of his department because of it. And he struggled forever and he went to inpatient twice And unfortunately, it got to the point where he felt that the devil needed to go ahead and just take control completely. So, he lost his battle to the devil, and his guys ran him off. Some places they just,
Well,
it's
it's
just,
hard. It's hard for people to really accept the uncomfortable that is mental health.
yeah. It doesn't mean you're going
But
to go
the
somebody.
thing is, it's not fucking AIDS. It's not the coronavirus. It's not fucking hepatitis. It's not herpes. You're not going to catch depression because one of your boys has depression. And just because they have depression or just because they're battling through something doesn't necessarily mean that they're anything less than or that they can't do the job. It just means that sometimes they feel like shit. That's all it is.
I don't know if you're the same way, but this is how I've always described it to people. I said, when I'm at work, to me, that's my safe space. I said, it's when I'm home by myself, lost in my thoughts, and I can't figure out what to do that day, that my mind starts to wander.
Well, yeah, that falls into my theory that it's because the stress of the job is the stress we know how to deal with. Right?
It's normal.
It's the comfortable stress because we developed our coping mechanisms. So yours is actually not a unique thing at all. There's plenty of people I've had the podcast that talk about. Sometimes I just rather be at work because because with that stress, at least I know how to deal with that stress. At least I know what I can do to quote unquote get over it or through it, whatever. And it's when I'm alone and I get in my head. It's like, well, that's because your mind knows how to deal with the stress over here. It doesn't know how to deal with the whole much stress. That's a whole nother conversation. I need to start winding this down, Melissa, but before I do, I want to say fucking thank you.
Thank you.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Like, what a fucking story. And we only dived into just a little bit of every little thing, right?
That's a lot of a little bit.
Yeah. I'm sure
that's a lot of a little bit.
Well, that's why I'm going to have you back on. I'm going to have you back on because I really truly believe that we can dive into a whole lot of other aspects and different ideas on how this affects us, right? Just because it affects you a certain way doesn't mean it's going to affect the same for somebody else. How it affected me obviously was different from you. And I told you too, and you were just like, yeah, I could see that, but it was different for me. Like I gave you my outside perspective and you're like, I can see how it can be seen that way, but this is how I perceive it to be. But you were open to it. You were open to hearing a different point of view. And I want to say thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We need more of us letting people know that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay that we struggle with these things. It's okay to talk about it. It's actually very healthy to talk about it. And it shouldn't be an uncomfortable conversation.
Right.
It should not be an uncomfortable conversation. We should be able to, hey, you got something going on, let's talk about it. Whether you're at work or not. You going to be good on the call? Good. If you're going to be good on the call, we can still talk about it. Now, if this is going to be something we talk about and you're just not going to be able to, do your job, then yeah, let's wait. But ask the questions. Figure it out. Like, it doesn't have to be an uncomfortable thing. I have a buddy at work. He'll ask me, hey, you good today? Because he knows I'm battling depression. He knows I'm going through my process. He goes, hey, you good today? Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm a little bit down, but I'm good. I can do the job. He's like, all right, cool. And he trusts that I can do the job.
Good.
Right? So if we have more people that understand and aren't ignorant to how mental health works and are more open to hearing how it actually works, I think more people would understand, and our brothers and sisters in this line of work are going to stop killing themselves because they're going to feel more open. They're going to feel more accepted.
Yeah. Agreed.
With all that being said, again, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You know how I end the podcast. You've listened to a few of them. I asked 3 questions. First one's a little bit twofold. Real quick. We are on the Kentucky Ditch Doctor podcast, and Melissa Parker, author and writer of Living Through the Darkness, is on your podcast. What's the one question you would have asked her or piece of information you would like to share that maybe we didn't touch on? We touched on a fuck ton, by the way.
Yeah. Quite a bit.
What's one question you would ask yourself?
Right now, if I was in another person's shoes, how do you feel that your therapy is coming? Like, how are you getting a benefit from it? Like,
And
very
are
good.
you?
It is a very long process. And the big thing is trying to remember that it took many, 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 many years and many, many, many events for some of us to get to where we are. And it's not something that's going to disappear overnight. And sometimes you catch yourself, especially when you're having your low days and you're like, God damn, like, I just fucking want to be done with this. Like, I just want to be done. Like, why am I still feeling like this? But you have to constantly remind yourself that it could take many, 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 many years for you until you've gotten your answers. But it's something that you're still going to be going through and dealing with for the rest of your life. But it's learning those tools in the process. So therapy, yes, I am getting a benefit from it. But there is so much more to uncover. So much more to uncover. And EMDR is starting to be next week. We'll be doing it twice a week. So we'll be getting into the nitty gritty even more because we need to get to the bottom of some of these because they're still affecting. So yes, therapy is going okay. I'm just impatient.
But you are making progress.
Absolutely making progress.
As slow as it might be,
you're
making progress.
Can't take medication and not go to therapy. It doesn't work that way. And a lot of people think, oh, I can just take medication and I'm in pain. You have to do therapy with the medication because the medication kind of levels you out enough to learn what you need to in therapy. And then eventually you can wean yourself off the medication. But for me and many others, it might not be for a long time, but that's okay. I'm okay right now.
Good. It's actually a really good question. And I like the fact that you asked that because sometimes some people think that, well, I've been to therapy and I keep going to therapy and nothing's changing. Well, if nothing's changing, maybe you need to change your mindset about the therapy or your process with the therapy, or maybe your therapist, or maybe you need to add a little bit something. Maybe you need to take away a little bit something.
I have books and workbooks and stuff that I have purchased, and my therapist is like, holy shit, like I would have recommended that for you, but you already got it yourself.
Right.
You know?
So the thing about therapy is just like mental health medication is that one way might not be the way that works for the way your brain works. So you need to be open to the idea that it's going to be a long process and that you might need to go through several different therapists, just like you might need to go through several different medications. It's okay. It's part of the process. Is it shitty? Fuck yeah, it's shitty. It sucks. It is a horrible process. And you go through times of feeling nothing and you'd much rather feel sad than feel nothing. There's other times where you're like, wow, why am I feeling so good about this when I should be feeling like shit about it? And you just start questioning whether or not therapy is working. Look, all these things are normal things. They're all normal things. They're all normal things. It's okay to go through those processes. It's part of the process. And if your therapist isn't telling you this, I'm telling you this. You will go through so many emotions and processes that it might not feel like it's working. But if it doesn't feel like it's working, probably because it's working. Yeah. Because now you're being more aware that the fact that you're already now aware that it's not working. Where before that awareness wasn't even there.
You have to want to work on it though.
That too.
You have to still want to work on it.
Absolutely.
It's not going to do it for you. You still have to go in with the notion that, okay, I'm going to digest everything that I can out of this. But if you're still digesting everything and doing what you should be doing and trying to focus on what you should be focusing on, you're still not getting where you're going, then maybe you need to change something. Right. But you still have to want to do it.
Look, it all starts with that first conversation. You've heard me talk about it before. That first conversation is a conversation with yourself. Being okay with knowing that you need
not be okay.
Yeah. Being okay with knowing that you're not okay. And that you want help. Being okay with being told the way your thought processes work and what you thought always worked is not working. Being okay with being wrong. Being okay with being uncomfortable.
Yep.
It's a hard fucking conversation to have.
I agree.
All right. Like I said, I appreciate that. That question is actually really good. And because I think the process through therapy doesn't be tough. My second question is real simple. Do you have any questions for me?
So what are you doing later?
I believe it or not, I actually have a couples therapy appointment right after this.
Awesome. You guys doing good with that, I'm assuming?
Yeah, well, we're doing better.
Good. Very good.
We're doing better.
Very good.
We're learning.
I think that's important.
It is very important.
Yeah.
Because we're both learning how to deal with my process, with my depression. We're both learning how to deal with our own processes and our depression, and we're learning how to be better for each other.
Good. That's very good.
We choose to be.
Good. It's good it's good that you and your spouse are able to openly do that. I can't tell you how many spouses I've heard that were like, well, I ain't doing no couples therapy, because I think it's important for them to understand what you're going through and how they can be supportive and how, like everything else.
Look, here's the thing. Anybody out there that thinks they know how to run a relationship or how to make it work?
No.
You know how to make it work for you.
Yeah.
But there's two people involved when it comes to a relationship. And you have to be open, if you truly love them, you have to be open to hearing how you deal with what you think is the right way to deal with it.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
My last question. You're on What Makes Us Fire. People are going to be listening to this and be like, oh, I'm listening to another civil service member. I'm listening to another first responder, military personnel. Tell me what it is like to be a first responder, to deal with mental health as a first responder. This is who these people are. But really, for my guess, it's more of a question. What do you think it is that's within us that drives us to do this job that we do? What is it about us? People that are so fucking different. Look, I'm just going to say it. You're a lesbian, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your lifestyle. You work with straight people, you work with gay people, you work with Muslims, you work with blacks, you work with whites, you work with Asians, you work with Christians, atheists, Catholics, black, white, doesn't matter. There are so many different people in this line of work of what we do. So many different political points of view, still doing the same job, working hand in hand together, willing to risk their lives for each other. But when you look at those type of people on the outside world, what a fucking difference. So what is it about all these people that still decide the sacrifice of themselves for others?
Well, I think some of us do it because we're just morbid. That's not me, but some of us do it because that's true. Like I've met some of the most interesting people in the fire service and emergency services.
Oh my God!
You're like, why the fuck are you here?
I like seeing dead people.
Like, for real though, like I mean, seriously, like I've had the new ones now. It wears off in time, and I know some new people do that, but they're like, man, I get to see a dead body today, and I'm like, oh fuck. I'm like,
God.
I was like, it's all fun and games until you see that one that you wish you never saw. I think some of it is for the glory, the look, the appeal. Really, honestly, they look really fucking cool. Another portion of it I see is because it's running the family. You're the second, you're the third, you're the fourth, the fifth generation firefighter, paramedic, whatever, police officer. And then the rest of us, I think we truly got in it because of a little bit of everything. We want to be able to make a difference and impact someone's life, even though that is, you think it's truly rare. The one rarity that you really make a remarkable difference makes up for the 10,000 bad calls that you've been on. And somebody has to do it. Someone has to go out there and do the job. And honestly, the reason why I got in it is because not only was I familiar with it before, but I honestly felt like I had nothing to offer anybody else. So I figured offering all of myself to the goodness of people as a whole would probably be better off for me. And that, that goes along with just how I felt as a kid. I felt distant and unappreciated and whatnot. And this job made me feel appreciated, made me feel like I have another family. I get to interact with people that not everybody can interact with. World War II veterans that were storming the beaches of Normandy. Like the experience and knowing that even if it was just holding their hand and being like, I know you ain't feeling good, dude. Or even if it was just being able to save their cat or their dog from the fire, even though they got out, or even a picture, like their whole house burns down and you were able to save one picture and it just happens to be the family picture everybody loved. Just that gratifying feeling that you get. I think that's the reason why people get into one of those three things. So,
well, that's not just one thing. I asked for one thing, but three things is good, Melissa. Three things.
There's always three. One thing, yeah.
Yeah. Things is good. No.
I fall into about two. I don't do the family thing, but.
And you know what? That's okay. That doesn't fucking matter. I love that you can joke about that too. I love that we can joke about. Look, it's okay to joke about the shit that we've been through. It's okay to laugh at ourselves with our traumas that we go through. It's part of life. And life is sometimes as fucked up as it is. It's kind of actually very fucking funny.
It is.
Because it's so fucked up. It's like one of those things where you're like, something so bad happened, but what else other than just laughing at it can you do? You're either going to be so sad and upset about it, or you're just, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to laugh about it. I'm done. I'm just going to laugh about it. Like, this is so bad, I can just laugh. Like, oh my God. Really?
If the general public could hear half the fucking things we laugh about, they'd be like,
it's like, okay, I get it, Karma. I get it. Good one. Like, I don't know what I did in my past life to deserve this, but good one. That's funny.
right.
Like, it's, depression can be hilarious. It can.
It's a little light at the end of the tunnel. It might be temporary, but it's a little light at the end of the tunnel. It Absolutely. Eases the pain a little bit. It's like taking Tylenol. It's
like taking Tylenol.
Like taking Tylenol. This is temporary.
Not ecstasy, guys.
No, don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Not ecstasy. Just Tylenol.
Hey, there's a benefit from doing all them drugs. Now when I run into pain,
oh my God.
I am crushing chest pain.
No.
I know why you are.
You gain knowledge through experience. I don't recommend that.
No. Absolutely not.
You new paramedics that are going out there, I do not recommend learning through experience when it comes to stuff like that. Just read the textbook.
Yes, read the textbook.
Listen to your FTO. Listen to your field training officer. Don't do it.
Don't do it. You can call me. I'll give you all.
Well, Melissa, seriously, I cannot thank you enough for opening up and being 100% you and 100% honest. I cannot thank you enough for that.
Oh, thank you.
I can't thank you enough for putting yourself out there in your book. Everybody, What Makes Us Fire Family, Living Through the Darkness by Melissa Parker, a story about a firefighter and a paramedic of overcoming life tragedies and still doing the job. This, I highly recommend for everybody to go check out. She admitted it. There are some stuff that you'll read and you'll be like, wait, hold on. There's a little bit more here. But guess what? There's an audiobook coming out where she's going to dive into that a little bit more. And she will be coming back onto the What Makes Us Fire podcast so we can dive into those things just a little bit more. And so we can get a better understanding of what it is that we all go through. Remember, your story is unique to you. Mm-hmm. And it will always be unique to you. But that doesn't mean that your brothers and sisters in the service don't understand. Because we are all part of it. Yep. Melissa, again, you're fucking amazing. Thank you for sending me the book. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing everything. I'm going to have you back on.
Well,
because there's other stuff that I'd like to talk to you about when it comes to working in the service and, especially being in Kentucky. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I really, really want to dive into and how it affected you and everything else. There's so much more information and guidance that you can give that we didn't touch on. And I truly believe. What Makes Us Fire family? Oh, you know what? Before I do that, where can they find you, Melissa? This is your plug time. I totally ran over your plug time. Your plug time. Where can they find you on social media?
oh well, shit. Well, I'm on TikTok right now. I'm taking a Facebook break for a while, so I'm removing my Facebook. But I should have an author page. I'll have to recreate a Facebook for just my author page, but perhaps on Facebook and TikTok. I'll still do funny videos, even though I got banned. I got a new account, and it is the Kentucky Ditch Doc on TikTok.
So KY? Is it KY?
Nope, all spelled out. The
Kentucky Ditch Doc. DOC. Follow her on TikTok, y'all. She does put some amazing content out there. She does share her stories 30 to 60 to 15 seconds at a time. She's not afraid to share who she is. She's become totally aware of who she is, and she's become okay with it. If you didn't catch that from this episode, then you are fucking dense as hell. What Makes Us Fire family? Y'all get out there, have fun, stay safe, show some love and peace in the world. You never know who's going to need it. You never know if you're going to be the one to make the difference. And being that difference feels fucking amazing. Be the change you want to see in the world. Don't let the world dictate how you want to see that change. Don't get walked all over. Just be better. What do you think about that? Good closing?
That was good, yeah. That sounded great.
Peace.
What did I tell you? What did I fucking tell you? I told you she was going to be nonchalant. I told you she was going to be pretty down and dirty and gritty. And I told you she was going to be sharing some stuff that was really pretty fucked up, but it didn't sound like it really... It sounds like she's really been able to work through it. It sounds like she's really been able to not allow it to control her anymore. It's pretty fucking awesome if you ask me. Melissa, I want to say thank you so goddamn much for coming on the show, for sharing your story, for sharing your book, for allowing us to be a part of your story, and for allowing us to be privy to your process. Keep fighting, sister. You got this. What Makes Us Fire, family? It's that time of the show where we talk about what you can do to help support the show, so please stand by as I go through my spiel. I will first want to say thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for listening this far. Please, please, please help spread What Makes Us Fire podcast and the foundation by going to check out all our social media sites with the tag at What Makes Us Fire on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. And you can, of course, you can follow us on YouTube with What Makes Us Fire space podcast. You'll see the logo. You'll see the sign. Subscribe. Leave comments. Watch us talk where you can see the faces behind the voices. It gives you a little bit of a different story. You get to feel a little bit more feeling when you add that visual aspect to it. And you can kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It just feels like you're almost there a little bit more. You don't have to. Just saying. If you'd like to reach out to me, you could always reach out to me at whatmakesusfire@yahoo.com. Email me. I'll get back to you. Please be patient. I'm doing my best to get back to every email as quickly as I can. Just be patient. Also, of course, for the nonprofit foundation, we can only continue growing through you, the What Makes Us Fire family. And I've said it from the beginning. The only way this is going to grow is through you. Through what support you show for the show. And that's why we have grown as much as we have. We now have the nonprofit that is growing a little bit more every day. If you go to whatmakesusfire.com, you can learn a little bit more about the nonprofit, and you can make your donation. Any little bit helps. It helps grow the podcast. It helps grow the foundation. and it helps us with our mission to helping our civil service members, military and first responders, active retired veterans, and volunteers get inpatient mental health treatment at no cost to them, because we take care of everything. And to make that happen, we need support from you, the What Makes Us Fire family. So I'm asking, even if you have $1, 50 cents, doesn't matter. Every little bit helps. There's an option for you to be a reoccurring donor where you can reoccur and do $1 a month, $1 every 2 weeks, $5 a month, whatever. Those type of donations really help the foundation. It helps us budget better, because then we know what is coming in, what isn't. We're trying to get to that goal of helping out our first civil service member as soon as possible, but the only way we can do that is to reach a certain number, and we got a long way to go. Other than that, I want to hit on one more thing. If you are in crisis right here, right now, and you need help, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is absolutely free, anonymous, and confidential. All it takes is you to make the call. The phone number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, the number is 1-800-273-8255. If calling just doesn't feel right for you right now, that's okay. I want you to visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org, where you'll find a multitude of resources for yourself to help guide you in getting better with your mental health for yourself. I have to mention, we are not sponsored and or in any way supplemented by the National Suicide Prevention Hotline or suicidepreventionlifeline.org. These are just two organizations and resources that we believe in that will help somebody that is in crisis right now. What Makes Us Fire family, new listeners, thank you so much for your support, for your listening, and for being a part of this family. Much love to you all. Stay safe. Peace.